6 p.m. and I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Summit Review Committee. July 2023. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, maybe we have the roll call, please.
Hello. Hello. For the sake of roll call, even though it's not being recorded, committee member Batnish, committee member Chang, committee member Lakon, vice chair Chow, and chair McKay.
The agenda is posted 72 hours prior to each meeting at the following locations: San Marino City Hall, the Kroll Public Library, and the Stoneman Building. The agenda is also posted on the city's website. The city welcomes public input. At this time, the public may address the Design Review Committee on items that are not on the agenda. Pursuant to state law, the Design Review Committee may not discuss or take action on issues that are not on the meeting agenda. To ensure that everyone, including those joining us remotely, are able to hear all speakers clearly, please speak directly into the microphone. Please note that all comments are limited to 3 minutes and will be timed by city staff. Are there any comments online?
No, there hasn't been any comments.
Is anyone present here to speak to that particular item that's not? Now let's ask staff to explain how the public comment will work for those individuals participating through Zoom and
If an individual would like to participate online or through the phone, you can use the raised hand feature through Zoom, and we will call you for the agenda item you're wishing to speak, or you can leave a comment in the comment section and we'll read your comment out loud during the public comment period. Or the third option is to email us at planning@cityofsanmarino.org, and we will also read your comment into the record.
thank you. And just confirm no one is present to speak on an item that's not on the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay. Moving on to public hearings, each committee member has received the plans and staff comments and has reviewed every item of the agenda and has visited each site. The general order for hearing each case will be as follows. First, staff will discuss the case and provide background information and a recommendation. Committee members may ask questions of staff after the presentation. Second, the applicant will then present their project if they desire to do so. The committee may take the opportunity to ask the applicant or the applicant's representative questions. The hearing will then open up for public comment from in-person and teleconference participants. At the conclusion of public comment, the applicant will have a chance to respond to the public comments, at which time the public comment period will close. I will then ask for comments from each of the committee members for discussion, and would just ask that committee members not repeat comments made by their fellow committee members. Committee members may then vote to approve, deny, or continue the project. In the event of a denial, it is hoped that the applicant will have heard the comments during the public comment period and during deliberation that will be useful in resubmitting an application. It's also important to understand there's a 15-day appeal period after an action has been taken for the applicant or any interested party to request the planning commission to review and to act on the case. So if we could turn to item number 1 on the agenda, which is design review case number DR 21-85 and DR 2315 at 1360 Granada Avenue. Who will be presenting for staff?
This is the fire review case number 21-85 at 1360 Granada Avenue. The applicant is proposing to add 305 square foot single story addition to the front. The project is continued item that was first heard on November 2nd, 22, sorry. The DRC reviewed the project and stipulated the following: reduce the front addition to be more compatible with the neighborhood property. The applicant reduced the square footage from 367 square feet to 295 square feet. And addition will extend out to be in line with the different homes thresholds at 1380 Granada Avenue. We have confirmed of the utility and identified the height difference between the existing and proposed chimney. The applicant is no longer proposing to replace the existing chimney. They use a roofing material or metal roofing material for the proposed window. They use a metal roofing material for the bay window. Applicant is proposing a metal roof for the bay window and providing a lighting fixture, demolition plan with sensitive scales and details of roof line with the plan. The applicant has provided the following requirements: use of higher quality material for the garage door. The applicant is now proposing from a vinyl garage door to now a steel material garage door. On May 17, 2023, the project was scheduled to a second hearing before the DRC. At the hearing, staff requested the project continuation to a date uncertain to address the discrepancy in the existing elevation and identified tree that required an arborist report and the tree removal permit. The applicant obtained the approval for the tree removal permit and revised the existing elevation to be accurate. Since the revision, the rear addition has been reduced to no longer being subject to design review, and the only proposals that are subject to design review are the front additions and the reconfiguration of the front porch. The project is not identified on the City of San Marino citywide historic survey property list, and there were 6 neighbors who did not object to the project, 4 no responses. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA. The project meets all findings and staff recommends approval of the proposed project. Thank you. That concludes the staff report, and staff is available to answer any questions, and the applicant and their representatives are available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Manager. Questions for staff? Could you confirm again for the committee what is the demo game on this project and what is not?
So the item, the project, the scope of work that is subject to design review will be the front bay window addition and the reconfiguration of the front porch and the tennis court in the area. And not subject to design review will be the rear addition and the window replacement.
Does the applicant or the applicant's representative wish to comment on the proposal and the presentation for maximum 5 minutes? If so, state your name and address for the record, please. Board in Samarino. So I have a really short slides for this project that I'd like to present to other commissioners and also people projects. Present the slides right now.
Yeah.
This is your time, yes. Yeah. So it will be really short. Eric has already covered everything, so this is just Yeah, this is the existing elevation for the projects, and then the garage door right now is not in functioning, so it could not be used or open. Yeah, so for the first design review, the front porch actually recessed into the rear part. So for the new design, we made a front porch. It's like we have like a higher roof pitch, and also in more centered area to bring a warm and welcome like feelings to the community, and also the materials and colors we choose. Also, we want to also blend into the community. And then for the existing elevations, it will have external lights, and we also we will replace with the new external lights for the green pole, which will be every exit, and also two next to the garage and two next to the front door. So the second slide is just distribution for the green part. It's the new roof line on the front porch that is actually a little bit further into the porch, and then the yellow part is the porch that the roof line that we proposed for the first time. So the first time looking at the gray one, the more colorblind elevation, actually it blocks part of the front door. So we actually have the higher roof to show the entire front door as in clear elevation. So if you guys have a question, if I'm going too fast, I can sort of explain the roof line situation here. Please. Okay. Can you see the first one? Yeah. So this is the external lights we use, and then also the information we got from the manufacturer. So even if the car completely blocked out lights, it still shouldn't down to the ground. So we want to minimize the light pollution by only shooting down instead of like shooting at the ground. So the lights are in that space by motion sensor, but it won't like create light pollution to the neighborhood. Yeah, I think that's pretty much of the details that I want to add to today, and happy to answer those questions. Thank you very much. Does any committee member have any questions for the applicant?
Just a couple of quick questions. Are you prepared or proposing to replace the entire roof? The whole house? Everything or partial?
We will replace the roof shingles, but not the ceiling joist or the roof luster.
And I'm sorry. So at the end of the day, do we see a brand new roof or we see old part new?
A brand new.
Brand new. Okay. And the windows also, right?
Yes.
Everything completely replaced.
Yes.
You're looking at your detailed plan, most of the walls are demolished and go through a major remodeling. I just want to make sure you understand that we are replacing everything pretty much in there. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Does any other questions for the applicant's representative? I think we do or generally do not, we will fix cracks, but it's not, it won't be completely removable. Currently, the driveway starts off a little narrower, less coverage on the yard, and then it finds that as it goes to that. We will not widen the driveway, so say that. The pathway between the porch and the driveway, you have it shown in concrete. Yes, if you consider putting it in the driveway, that you have on the side. As opposed to that. Yes. And could you describe the type of material of the bay window, cover the roof of the bay window? It's metal. Yes, correct? Metal. Sloped or straight? It's sloped metal. Are you suggesting that if the committee made a condition in terms of the driveway that the applicant would be amenable? Yes. Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Oh. I also thought of review over the light fixtures. I think it would look more compatible in the neighborhood if the light fixtures were differentiated somewhat. So you would have different ones at the entryway, and then maybe something compatible but not exactly the same next to your garage and around the side and back. So it would be repeating the same light fixture all over the house. Yes, you would have a different scale and different style.
For the design we use, we will use the same lighting fixture, but if the commissioner have any preference that we change the pattern to blend in more into the neighborhood, we can choose a different style.
Okay. We'll talk about it amongst the committee. If you have any recommendations. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, I will open up the item for public comments. Does any member of the public wish to speak on this item? If so, state your name and city of residence for the record. I don't see any. Staff, do we have any electronically online? Okay, no. This time I will close public comment on this item and bring the item back to the committee for discussion. Committee member Batney. You have a question.
Oh, thank you. Everything looks to me except for the front door, which like an arts and crafts kind of front door. I think it's trying to blend in with the garage. It sort of does, it sort of doesn't. And I thought that we discouraged those kinds of side lights in San Marino and the residential design guidelines. That's the only comment I have. Otherwise, everything seems all right.
Thank you. Committee member Jane.
Thank you, Chair. I think overall the design has improved from the last generation when you submitted last time. I appreciate the front door being relocated into a more prominent location so that we can actually see the front door. Am I getting echo?
I'm sorry, members of Zoom are having a difficult time hearing everyone. So I've increased the volume to 100%. I can't do it anymore. But if we can just be mindful to be very close to the mic so they can hear us on Zoom and all members, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Give it a try. I just don't want to make it too loud. Okay, so I think overall it's good. One of the comment was made on the lighting. I think the designers should spend a little bit more effort to work out the correct lighting, the design of the lighting, the front door, to work with the front elevation. As to the others, that can work with the different elevation because you do have most of your architectural elements in the front elevation. So it's okay to have two different type of design plans to make it a little bit more attractive. And then keep in mind that you don't want it too bright in the front. Other than that, I think the project is workable, and I can support the project.
Committee member Lightcon. Yes, thank you. I agree with my fellow committee members, and I could support the project. Also, I appreciate the changes. I would like to see a little more care in choosing the light fixtures. Something that kind of looks more special up front, maybe, and then maybe something less showstopper at the side next to the driveway. And then also is the walkway walkway, it's brick or a material that blends with the porch, not to not with the concrete in the driveway. So we can try to not increase the amount of concrete in the front yard. And then the bay window, as long as the bay window has that slope in it, the traditional slope that we see in most houses of this era, I could support the project. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I agree with the previous comments made by my fellow committee members. I think the project definitely has improved from our last time we saw it. By reducing the front footage, jetting out of the main structure, I think it's definitely a good improvement. I think my question would be if we want to give some suggestion or make some sort of condition at the driveway, yeah, maybe we want to see some sort of bridge accent, or we want to see all brick, or we can just, or we can leave it up.
I would like to see all brick.
All brick, okay. We can certainly discuss that. And also for the light fixture, we can suggest that. Maybe.
I think we've already suggested it. We don't have no lighting, I don't think.
Okay. So if we're on make a suggestion. Thank you. Were we talking about a brick driveway or a brick walkway? I thought it was brick walkway and maybe some accents on the driveway or something like that.
I
just want to clarify what
speaking
you
to the
suggested.
applicant. So I said driveway versus walkway, but I think that it's a segue, if you will, from the curb to the. So I'm going to make the following suggestion, that if we're going to make that a condition, that we make sure the applicant's representative is amenable and that would be as specific as possible. And then also, given that we don't have purview over lighting, and make a suggestion in a motion, that we also be very specific. I don't think that the lighting. I think we really don't have suggestion. It's just a suggestion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
really quickly, in regards to the driveway, that's not under the BRC's purview. All they're doing is making some maintenance improvements to the driveway. If the applicant wants here, you know, put a brick, that's obviously up to the applicant, but it cannot be part of your action since it's not under your purview.
Maybe really, huh? Okay. Talking about the segment between the driveway and the porch. The walkway, so that's calling it a walkway. And I was no final speaking, but then it's more into some detail, yeah, thing, so. It's a small walkway. So that it blends with the home, not with the driveway, and that can condition that, correct? Yeah, that can be great. Thank you. I wanted to touch on the member Batnich's comment on the door. Are you suggesting that it's not compatible with itself?
I think it lacks some compatibility, yes. Mainly because the applicant is choosing to kind of make a more classic look to the classic San Marino look, let's say, to the front of the home by adding a classic bay window that such as you see very often in San Marino with the sloping, classic sloping metal roof, if you will. And that makes it kind of more classic, whereas the front door is a different look. So I think specifically those kind of windows, but I'm open to suggestion.
I'd like to hear from the rest of the committee, because I think that this is an interesting point in terms of the potential craftsman feel to it, but I also see that it is clearly intended to match the garage door. So is the committee satisfied that there's compatibility overall? Okay.
You don't have too many homes that has a garage door that's front facing. As you all know. But this particular home, the way that it's laid out and being designed, make that a design feature. So the fact that the designer tried to make that look attractive and also relocate a hidden door to the side and try to make it a little bit more prominent, it kind of solved that problem somewhat. So if we go back to all the quote unquote traditional smaller door with nothing there, it's a pretty prominent front entry with nothing. So the two side light, I thought about it in a way, is it going to help the project? I don't think so. Because she's trying to work with the garage door design, and try to make the front doors. So with that said, that's what I'm trying to go along with that.
So it's not completely overshadowed by the garage door. So if the front entrance is overshadowed.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's how it works.
And then I also want to see what my fellow committee members think. Are we all satisfied with the improvements made to the bay window? I think that we asked for some very specific modifications. I think they've been addressed, but is everybody satisfied with the way they're reflected in the plans? Okay. Do we have a motion? I'm looking for a motion with some very specifics.
Going to the item, I move to approve design review case number DR 21-85 and DR 23-15 at 1360 Renata Avenue. As presented, and also have the applicant pay some additional attention to the selection of the lighting, and also to work out a workable solution on the walkway and the driveway for a discussion.
Incorporating some of the brickwork and
Correct. I think the walkways should incorporate with the brickwork that is being presented in the house. So they look cohesive. Right. Because I don't think we can be a little bit more specific than that. I think if you like, I can have staff look at that during the final plan check time. If the staff is comfortable with it.
Okay,
Chair. Perhaps we could use the words incorporated, like you said, but I'm just worried that incorporated to one person might mean, three little bricks. Maybe something along the lines of incorporating at least 20% of the material of the walkway be something along those lines that would be more specific.
I like 20%. Are you comfortable with 20%? 25%? 25? Well, if it's just concrete with little ribbons of brick, it's still going like in the driveway.
Yeah.
And we don't want, I've seen houses like this before and very unattractive. A little detail, but would be look the best if it was brick, all brick. We could do a range or we could increase the 25.
I think 25 would be fine. I think
25 to 50?
yeah. Minimum
25?
Okay, 25%.
Okay, at minimum.
Operation of brickwork into the design. And we'll let staff verify that.
25% or more.
25, minimum 25%. Will that be okay? Right. Well, that's the
Will
motion.
that be okay? Okay. The applicant's representative has indicated in the affirmative. Roll call, please.
No, we need a second.
Okay.
Right, a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Member Benny,
Yes.
Committee Member Chang,
Yes.
Committee Member Lee,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chow,
Yes.
and Chair McKay.
Yes.
And before we move on to item number 2, we still have people online who cannot hear the committee members. So they can hear me, but they can't hear you. So if you can please just speak very closely to the mic, even if we hear you and it's very loud, they cannot hear you online. So just as a reminder, please speak into the mic. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item number 2, which is design review case number DR 22-17 at 980 Huntington 5. And staff will be presenting item number 2.
The assistant planner urged you that in case number DR 23-17 the request to install one illuminational letter wall sign facing Huntington Drive and one non-illuminational letter wall sign facing Chelsea Road. The project is a continued item that was heard before the DRC on May 17, 2023. The DRC reviewed and requested the following: provide all necessary and accurate dimensions. The applicants provided the necessary and accurate dimensions in the plans. Reduce the overall size of the proposed plan. The applicant reduced from 28-inch by 172-inch to 26-inch by 160-inch. Remove the illumination of the proposed signs. The applicant removed the illumination for the sign facing Chelsea Road. Remove the sign facing Chelsea Road. The applicant was to install the sign facing Chelsea Road. The subject property is not found in the state of San Marino Citywide Historic Survey property list. There were 7 neighbors who did not object, 5 non-responses, and 1 objection letter from neighbor at 1020 Huntington Drive. Since the revision, the applicant has reached out to the neighbor who objected with a revised proposal. The neighbor has not responded as of yet. There was one legal neighbor at 930 Huntington Drive that exists with an approved illuminated channel letter wall sign that the proposed sign is incompatibility with. The previous owner of the subject property also used the 2 illuminated channel letter wall signs on the same location that the applicant is proposing. The proposed sign is also trademarked with the mark consisting of the letters point space. The project is categorically no sequel. The project is all the findings and staff recommends approval of the proposed project. Thank you. That concludes the report. Staff is available to answer any questions, and the applicant and their representatives are available to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Assistant Planner Julie. Does any committee member have any questions for staff on item? Committee member Benny.
I do. What is to happen with that old ATM? Is that going to be stuck without the on and removed?
Yeah, it has already been removed.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for staff? So I have a question. So we had asked for very specific conditions and changes before this was before us again, and one of them was to remove the sign on Chelsea, and the applicant has declined to agree to that, correct?
Yes.
Any other questions for staff?
I guess I had a question for maybe the applicant, but for staff, it appears that they are proposing 2 different sizes. The one in Huntington is larger than the one on Chelsea. So I just want to verify that staff understand that based on that information for the report. It's not the same, even though the canopy size is the same, 46 inches, but they're proposing 2 different sizes between the two signs.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask the applicant when he's okay.
Thank you. Does the applicant or the applicant's representative wish to comment on the proposal? Presentation for maximum 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Lee of Plano Park. Eric pretty much covered all the changes and modifications and corrections that we've made. As he mentioned, we added more accurate and more detailed measurements, for which I do apologize last time for lack thereof. And as the Vice Chair mentioned, the sign facing Chelsea Road, the size is further reduced from 28.26 to 24.5 in effort to reflect the comments from the committee last time. So we have made a non-illuminated sign and made the size even smaller. Just to show our efforts to accommodate whatever the comment that you guys are making last time. So yeah.
Does any committee member have questions for the applicant's representative? Committee member Chang.
Thank you, Chair. I want to make sure that your rendering this time is accurate.
It's
Scale.
yes.
Meaning that at the, let's just stay on the Huntington Drive rendering. We got a pavement walls 46 inches, and you're proposing a sign of 19.5 roughly, with a 6.5 inch red dot.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that that is accurate. And looking at the rendering, the picture is accurate. That proportionally that looks about right. Because I don't think we need to do any bigger than that. So it's let me understand your proposed lettering. These are all channel letters that are backlit. They're not lighted channel letters, right?
Not facelit channel letters. They're yes, halo lit.
Halo lit.
Right.
Yeah, so you see lighting behind the letter, so you only see the silhouette of that at nighttime.
There are some samples of the existing sign that we have already installed in San Gabriel and as well as Arteria. So
Yeah, I saw those pictures, yeah. So the black is a black letter, like a block.
right, it's all stainless steel, welded, seamless, and powder coated.
And so it's a return 2 inch, each letter is 2 inches.
Yes.
2
Two
inches
plus, yeah, yeah.
And how much space between the letter to the wall?
It's 1 inch.
1 inch?
Right.
That's where the halo light will come out at nighttime, yes, in that area. And the red letter by tree line royalty group, those are unlit and it's just a block letter.
Right, it's the dimensional half-inch thick acrylic.
Just a clear, yes. How are those being anchored to the wall?
And
That, yeah. So it's offset to the wall also.
no, but it's just
Glued on directly. And those letters have half-inch thick,
half-inch thick.
and it's basically cut out as a block letter.
Right.
And it's acrylic
painted.
painted. Yes. All right. Okay, so now I understand the proposed construction. Why would you want to? I know the client probably wants as many times as possible, but honestly, that building is such an attractive building. And if you're coming off on Huntington Drive, either eastbound or westbound, you're not going to miss that sign. You're going to see that building no matter what. And I don't think Chelsea will become a major thoroughfare for people coming there. So, can you share with us why would you want 2 signs on one single tenant and with such a big sign on two corners of the same building?
Why would we want that? I mean, as a business perspective, it's always have better visibility in accordance with the city ordinances and what the community feels. So, I mean, that's number one problem. On the side, I think the corner, having two sides of the corner is not necessarily unattractive. I mean, this is a big building, and just stating that this whole building is green space. I think that makes a good statement. And the bank, that's science.
Let me ask one more question. What kind of customer will you have coming to that building? It's not a retail.
It's not necessarily, no.
It's more of a educational seminar type facility.
Right, community-based educational.
So, okay. That's all I did.
But it's not a business that's open all day. Like I go by it a lot, and I don't see anyone in there. I don't think it's like,
No,
8 to 5 commercial.
8 to 5 every day, no.
I don't see people. So, okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant's representative?
I'm sorry, you were the sign company, right?
Yes.
Are the owners here?
Is the applicant?
Yeah, they are.
Did you want that?
Behind me,
Maybe
house,
like Leyland's if you want
I just want to understand a little bit more about how often they use it, what is the hours, and
I
to determine what it is. And
I understand, and committee member Lakon was asking something, I think that went to that. Yes, I think we would all like to hear from the applicant.
Hi, my name is Catherine Clutch. The reason why we have the sign on shelves is because most of the customers that come to the meeting, it might be the first time for them. It's not like something that they come every year or things like that. So the different customers that are coming in at our meeting normally do they're like 4 o'clock on to 7 o'clock when people are off for business or for business. So it's not the business hour, regular business hour that we have. But the reason why we want to have the sign on Chelsea because many of these customers do not speak English. So they just recognize the signage. They're not familiar with the street or with the area. They might be new to the area. So it's easy for them to find it coming from the opposite directions of Huntington.
But it's not going to show on the opposite side of Huntington. It's facing
On Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yeah, so
It's facing residences on Chelsea.
If you come from Huntington on this side, but before you hit Chelsea, you will see that corner.
It's obscured at that corner by the trees there, though. I guess my question to you and questions, but I do want to follow on my fellow committee members' questions because in reviewing the hearing from last time, which I did, and went through it in detail, there were a lot of concerns that had been raised at that meeting, and I don't think they've been addressed. And one of them was the concern of having the second sign, which remains large, facing a residential property, which is just not something that is encouraged in the city. And also during that meeting, it was made clear that this is a business that is essentially a meeting space. It's not attracting customers, it's not attracting consumers. And with this huge sign on facing Huntington, on Huntington, I'm not sure what the added value is on Chelsea. Can you explain?
So when we designed that signage, we literally copied what the bank used to have. So the bank used to have one on Tracy Chelsea and one on Huntington. So that's when we first designed it. It's exactly the way it was based on the city, the bank. So we did take that into consideration. Initially, it was side light, so we took down the light on the Chelsea side, but when we prefer to have a signage on that corner of the traffic coming from the other
and I appreciate what you're saying, but I think that the point was made at the last time that this project was before us, that this business is very different from the bank. And further, the project is coming before us today in July of 2023. I don't know when it was approved or why it was approved before for the bank, but it's a completely different business and this is coming before us now. So we have to evaluate the venue. Also, the sign is very different from the bank sign. Are there other questions for the applicant's representative? Community Member Lakon?
I was just gonna make a comment, is that prior to the remodel of this building, it was had a lot of foliage around it. And the signage wasn't so prominent as it is now with the white paint and the dark signage. So I think right now we're looking at almost like a different type of building because the contrast is so great and the foliage around the buildings.
I have another question. We have a bullet point here, which was that we asked that elimination be removed entirely. And you've come before us now to remove it only on Chelsea. And given what the business, we understand the nature of the business is there a reason that you're seeking elimination on Huntington?
It's at a time of we shut down. So we just try to keep it consistent with other signs that we already have. All those signs are lit up with
Those the rules in the city of Arcadia, the city of San Gabriel are as strict as the rules in this city. And so I'm just asking, is there a need for the elimination? Because at the last hearing, well, it was also mentioned, I don't know if it was you or your representative, that at one of your locations, the sign is only internal. There isn't even an external sign at one of your locations locally.
that one is office office only 350 square foot.
So if in the big city of Pasadena, you don't even have an external sign, why in our small city do we need illuminated?
No, that's so the office I have has a small, remote office for the client of the area that we want. So it's not even a big, this is the biggest point space we have, it's our main office. So we want to make sure that sign is lit up plus our sign is on. So if you don't have some kind of lights in the background, toward the end of the night, you don't see it. And plus our business that we have, I mean, that we have like all that way. So to us, I think we want to have something.
What was the last point you made? I'm sorry. You're
The
conducting business that are off hours?
yeah, sometimes we
Like
do
what kind of hours?
no, it's like office is what I mean, is like 4 to 7 or 4 to 6.
I don't know. That was mentioned before.
That's something for the planning department. But their hours, right? It'd be the same as the bank hours were allowed. Or no.
Sure. So things. One, as we're talking about illumination and type of business and so forth, I would be careful in terms of judging this business in comparison to what other retail or banking or other uses allowed in the commercial zone are. That could provide for some issues down the line. What I would concentrate is on compatibility with the neighborhood, with compatibility with the building itself. This business can operate we really don't have any particular hours that this business is referring to. Other than what's in the code, and I believe I think there's a limit, but I can't remember what it is, if it's 10 o'clock or 12 or something like that. But either way, I would just be careful in terms of how you deliberate, in terms of comparing this business with the former business or any other business in the retail. Whether in regards to whether it can be illuminated. And in regards to the operation itself, it's an approved use. Obviously, during this time of the year, illumination is not a big deal. But you also have to consider that at some point it's going to get darker earlier. And so the clientele is, they'll have, I know this for a fact is when I go running, I see that they are busy during the middle of the day. I also see them in my late afternoon runs, and I know they're busy in the late afternoon. So there's going to be business throughout the day. So I would just recommend that you look at those two aspects. One, the need for illumination throughout the year. Two, this is a business like any other business in C1.
Thank you, Director. Those are very important points. I think the reference was to the comments that have been made at the previous meeting and the question as to why the applicant was not inclined to make those changes, but we can reserve it for our committee deliberation. Are there any other questions for the applicant's representative or the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now open it up for public comments. Is there anyone here who wishes to make a public comment about this item on the agenda? Anyone online?
Going online.
No public comments or submitted electronically?
No.
Thank you. Close the public comments portion on this item and bring the item back to the committee for discussion. Start with committee member.
Thank you. I would rather see it not eliminated because it does face residential neighborhoods on both sides. And we have to remember that the medical building on that corner is zoned residential, though it has property on it that is currently a business. I could approve the design of the sign, and I could approve it on both sides. I would rather not see the elimination at all, but I do understand the applicant's desire to have a limited sign. So I'll hear what other committee members say, but I could support the project this evening.
Committee member Chang.
I appreciate the applicant have spent effort to clean up what was submitted last time. Last time, we all understand that it was not even in the right elevation with the wrong street name. That's why I more excited with the sign designer that what's in front of us is at least accurate. And I do appreciate them not lighting up the one on Chelsea, but there is, you don't need that. But on the Huntington Drive, in winter months, it get dark at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it could be a potential problem if you can't see the sign at night. So I would have no problem having that silhouette lighting for the signage on Huntington Drive only. Other than that, I think the signage and the building works quite well together now, and I can work with what's being submitted. I can approve.
Thank you. Committee member Babbage.
Yes, I think that I could support the sign as presented to us as it would be on the front, on the Huntington Drive facing side. I actually think that there's a sort of happy coincidence that the fonts and the style of the logo kind of looks nice with this type of building. So that's nice. And I think it's okay to have some backlit lighting on this. And I think if we're gonna, I'd like to see how that looks as something that we might see on other buildings on Huntington Drive. And I think that this is a good building and a good logo to try that out on, to see how it comes out. Because there aren't that many of these around. As for the other side on Chelsea, I could support, certainly I would not want any illumination on that side, on the Chelsea side. I really want to be sensitive to neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods that are adjacent. And so I am glad that this is not proposing illumination on the Chelsea side. It is, I do, however, wonder what the point is of this sign on that side of the street, because I mean, when I was there today and totally didn't see that the ATM machine had been taken out. But, I actually took a picture right from the corner that if anywhere you would need to see that, that you would be able to see that sign from where this picture was taken. And it really is obscured by the trees. And, so I don't really see how it would be helpful. You can still see the sign, the front. I believe that you would be able to still see the front sign as you're approaching, as you're driving east on Huntington Drive. And I think it's large enough to be very visible. And these days, let's face it, all of us just put an address in our phone when we don't know where we're going. So I don't really see the point of the Chelsea facing sign. However, if the other committee members think that it's a good idea to have the sign on Chelsea, I would want it to remain non-illuminated, which is what's being proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Chow.
Thank you, Chair. I think my view, the overall view regarding the project is still changed since last year. I can support the signage facing Huntington, but I really have concern, and I think we have to support having the secondary signage facing Chelsea, which I made that clear as well in the last meeting. I just don't find it compatible with the neighborhood, especially the overall design of the design of the sign itself. It is residential neighborhood. In terms of the necessity for this secondary sign, I heard to look at eastbound speeding and to make sure that, imagining that if there isn't a sign, which there is now, and I still see the front sign, and I think the front sign is always sufficient, even travel eastbound. I'll give it a try again. So in short, I can support the most I can support probably continuance. But I don't know that's up to the applicant to come back, or if they want to maybe put the staff and if they want to move forward with just one side, that's an option. One side would be as presented tonight, I cannot support the secondary sign. I can support it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I concur with Committee Member Batten and Vice Chair. I cannot support the project having a sign on Chelsea facing residences. I don't think it's compatible with the neighborhood. The sign itself is really large on Huntington, and two have driven around and around and around the property.
the sign on Huntington will be quite sufficient, quite prominent. And what hasn't been discussed tonight and does not seem to be a problem for my fellow committee members is that this is a very fanciful design, if you will. It's a very artistic design. It's not just a standard lettering. If the rest of the committee has no issue with that, I understand it's the company's logo. That's fine. I can, be amenable to that. But I think that it makes it even more prominent, the design. It really draws the eye, and I think it's more than sufficient on Huntington. So I would only be able to support a continuance tonight.
A couple things. I just wanted to make sure that we understand. I think we touched this on the first meeting in regards to the sign itself. It's a corporate logo, so we're restricted from anything there. Obviously, the committee has the right for continuance, but I also think that a motion can be made where you can approve one sign and deny the second sign. And then at that point, the applicant has the ability to appeal that if they wanted to.
Thank you, Director. Let's have some further discussion on this, because I could approve the sign on Huntington, but not the sign on Chelsea. And I do appreciate the applicant's revisions, providing much more necessary and accurate dimensions. I want to state that for the record. That's appreciated. But some of the other concerns from the previous hearing have not been addressed.
So, I think that was, what the director just said was kind of in line with what I was thinking. Perhaps we can find a way, find a path for the project to move forward. So I could support only one sign, that is the one as presented tonight. The one is not.
I can do that also. Maybe they're damaged.
I was just gonna try to attempt a motion, just so we have something to discuss rather than. You know what I mean? So I guess the way I would word it is, I move to approve the design review case number DR 23-17 at 980 Huntington Drive, with the following condition, that the second sign
Chelsea.
the second sign on Chelsea not be installed. So the motion would be to only approve the sign that is facing on Huntington Drive as presented. Is that
You're on the right track. For the record, I would, if the pleasure is to allow it to be illuminated, I would add that into.
as presented? Okay,
Yeah.
including, okay. The sign on Huntington Drive is approved with illumination as presented,
And only that sign.
and only that one sign with the operating hours to, and I believe past we had said 9 or 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. So with the operating, with the illumination, would be on a timer that would be turned off at or before 10 p.m.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please.
First by committee member Batnish and second by committee member Chang. For roll call, committee member Batnish,
Yes.
committee member Chang,
Yes.
committee member Lako,
Yes.
vice chair Chow,
Yes.
and chair McKay.
Yes.
So the motion passes 5-0 and the applicant has 15 days to appeal it, should they wish.
Thank you. Move on to item number 3 on the agenda, design review case number DR-20, DR-23-17. Okay. Item 3 on the agenda, design review case number DR-22-59 at 2560 Canterbury Road. And who is presenting? Project staff.
Thank you, Chair. That would be me, Assistant Planner Sabah Susunian, for the record. Design review case number DR-22-59. This project was first heard by the DRC. First heard by the DRC on the meeting held on June 21st, 2023. The DRC voted to continue the project and requested the following information. The request for the applicant to measure and confirm the window sizes, and also to clarify whether there is a need to break the stucco, and if so, provide information on the plans as to how it will be done. To summarize, a number of the windows have already been replaced without permits. The homeowner stopped work when she realized that permits were required. Staff is referencing windows numbered 1 through 9, which are visible from public view to guide this review. The existing windows include variations of casement and fixed windows or louver windows. The applicant proposes to replace them with pre-approved Marvin aluminum clad windows in the stone white color. The new windows are either sliding or double hung and do not feature the same pattern of the muntins or grills as the existing windows. Staff finds compatibility within the legal neighborhood and consistency with the ranch architectural style and recommends approval for the project. Staff also supports the removal of the louver windows since they do not meet today's energy efficiency standards. Moreover, during the review, staff noticed that some of the stucco around the unpermitted window changes did not match the existing facade. As such, staff has recommended a condition of approval to address this issue. The applicant will be required to restucco the area. Restucco the area surrounding those windows to match the existing facade. Staff would not sign off on the inspection until excuse me. Staff would not sign off on the inspection until it is found that the stucco matches seamlessly. This applies to the existing windows that were installed without permits and the new windows that will be installed. Finally, to clarify, the applicant is here to present their narrative for the project. And that concludes staff support. My apologies.
Thank you, Assistant Planner Susunian. Just for the record, in the staff report, this was first heard at a special meeting held on June 1, 2023, correct?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct. It is stated incorrectly on the staff report.
Are there any questions for staff? No questions for staff. Does the applicant or the applicant's representative wish to make a presentation, wish to address the committee for a maximum of 5 minutes? State your name.
Contractor. I have the architect online here, but I can hear what you're saying. As the windows being retrofitted, we'll take care of it without the stucco patching. We did the back of the site to confirm that they were the right size to be changed out without having to break. And as to the windows that were already installed with breaking, address that stuff and fix that. There's a little flange on metal windows and it's broken out, so I don't know if there was much else to address. So,
Can you please
questions. We're just retrofitting windows.
Okay. Does any committee member have any questions for the applicant's representative? Committee member Chen.
Thank you. If I hear you correctly, you said you don't need to patch the stucco?
No, we should be able to use an angle grinder and just cut the old metal windows right out. And then the new Marvin windows are within the realm where we can slide them in and not have to.
So to hear you correctly, the new window are basically the same size as the.
They are.
They are.
Yes.
The last time when I looked at the plan, it was like inch and a half too small or something.
Yeah, I believe he fixed it. I don't have the plan in front of me. I know he went back and checked the measurements and fixed the plan, so hopefully that's represented.
Of course, I mean, if they fit perfectly, you don't have to demolish the stucco if you would.
Yeah, when I was on site looking at the windows, it looked like a clean retrofit, but what it looked like to me was the old metal windows when they came out had the flange on it. So he might have hammered about 1.5 inches or 2 around those windows and get the old ones out, put the new one in. Because the patch is literally just a line of stuff and he didn't fan into the whole existing stuff.
So whatever it takes, I guess the drawing presented. It does say that if any new stucco patch has to seamlessly match the existing dash finish stucco and painted. I just want to hold, I think it's kind of a hold you to that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do it if the approval tonight will be allowing you to do that condition stays.
If we can't do the patch seamlessly, we typically just do the whole wall. The sand finish with the whole wall.
That's fine, it will go on the record, so. I just
Not
want
a
to
problem.
understand.
No, not a problem. It's a simple sand finish. We would do the whole wall.
I understand, okay, because otherwise we have seen some project that failed because of mismatching sizes.
Yeah.
And they come up with a piece of trim and thinking that that will hide it, and it's just a disaster.
No, simple.
So, okay, so that's fine.
Are there any other questions for the applicant's representative? Because if not, I have one. Okay. When this matter was before us previously, there were, as I recall, 2 issues. One was that we needed much more specificity as to the specific windows, the specific plans for the windows, which windows going where, and that's been provided now. But the other issue or concern that merited a lot of discussion as the last time this was before us was that there was a discrepancy in the measurements of the windows, but they have already been purchased, and fortunately or unfortunately, and that there was a discrepancy. So now you're telling us that there isn't, and are you saying that you realize that there isn't now?
No, I didn't do it. So the architect went, he confirmed the measurement. So that's not coming directly from me. He's online right here right now. I wish he could speak to it.
Well, hang on. Before I thought you said that they are exactly right size, but now you're saying that the measurement will work.
Well,
I want to make sure we're
I
understanding.
believe it's within a 1/2 inch, so it has to fit into the existing open so that we don't have to break the stucco. So it was measured and ordered and purchased as a retrofit. The only reason the stucco was broken is because of taking out the old window. I believe, because I did not.
My recollection was that it wasn't just a 1/2 inch. Director, is it possible to ask staff a question of the structure? Assistant planner Sassoon, what is your understanding of the discrepancy in the sizing?
So the, my understanding is that the, architect went out to confirm the sizes and that they verified it would be a like for like change for the sizing. Can you clarify the question? If,
You're not aware of any discrepancy in the sizing?
that is correct, yeah, when I spoke with the applicant, they confirmed that they measured the windows. And that they matched the existing window sizing.
Has that been confirmed by staff?
Do you mean as if staff to go out and measure the windows?
Right, I assume the answer is no, but
Yeah, we don't go out. to-
understood. It's what was represented to staff, correct?
Yes, yes.
But I just want to confirm. Thank you. Committee member Chang?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure that, the plan that's in front of us does show that, there will be, a new stucco coming in. And it will match existing texture. Now, if you don't need to do that, more power to you. But I think it's not the same responsibility to go measure window for you. It's your client and your architect and your general contractor, which is you.
Yeah.
To see if that get done correct. Yeah. All right, so I want to make sure you understand that condition, that this plan, once it's approved, we're gonna hold you to the plan. Mr. Davis, Scott Davis is the architect of record.
Yeah.
He is telling us that he would match all the stucco as needed.
That's where I would do it, yes.
Right, and if you want to ask him, I'll ask him about how the windows been coming out, how it's going to be installed. And we can have a better understanding, but it really isn't the DRC's job to go into the construction detail for them. We just want to make sure the outcome come out correctly.
Are there any other questions for the applicant's representative? Thank you very much. Did the architect wish to speak on the record, or are you saying you not?
Chair, if I may. The architect, Scott Davis, is online. He says he's having trouble with his microphone. What he wants to say is he did measure and the new windows will fit as retrofit. The sizes do match. He does not anticipate any stucco needs to be broken. But the previous stucco work will need to be corrected. What I forgot to mention during my report, the applicant before you today is not the same person that did the work for the unpermitted windows. So if there's concern about the quality of work, Dan and Scott are not the people who did the work before. So they're here to fix the work that was done without permits.
Thank you.
Chair, let me make sure that what is being read is part of in a minute.
Yeah.
Well,
We
it is
understand that
correct.
that is the architect's presentation, and we're gonna have to hold them to this agreement.
That is not part of the record.
Yeah, I read his words
Yeah.
verbatim, and then I added the part about them being the new applicants.
That specific comment came from the architect, Scott Davis, online,
Yes.
correct? Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. I'll now open up the item for public comments. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, staff, do you have any public comments submitted electronically?
I do not.
Is that no? Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, I will close the public comments and bring the item back to the committee for discussion. And I'll start with committee member Babbage.
Yeah, I appreciate all of the clarifications that we got this time. They were reassuring. I am reassured that any previous stucco work that was damaged will be remedied, and that the windows that are planned to go in, that will be newer windows going in, will be the appropriate retrofit measurements. It's to me not ideal to be putting gliders on these on a house like this on any house in San Bruno really, but if there is a style where I think the gliders sort of work, it is the scratch style. So given that, I think I can live with all of these. Also, these are very high quality windows, that helps. So overall, I can live with the changes. And my fellow committee members may have some comments, perhaps on the style of the number, just the sheer number of gliders is a little concerning to me. And for any gliders that have not yet been installed, perhaps there's a way to suggest some more of a variety. But I think that the concept that there are some gliders in this house already is somewhat acceptable given the ranch style of the house.
Thank you. Committee Member Chang.
I appreciate the clarification, and I think both the general contractor, owner, and the architect understand what the expectations of this committee. And with that said, I can support what's being presented in front of us.
Committee Member Laycomb. Thank you. Yes, I agree with Committee Member Chang. I could support what's proposed. Thank you. Vice Chair Chen.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can also support the project, and given that all the discussion went in, the clarification, in particular with the stucco issue, and everything has been verified and on the record. So I can support it.
Committee Member Chang, you in particular had a lot of concerns at the last hearing on this item. Are you confident in the current vis-a-vis the sizing and the stucco issue?
Sure, Chair. Last time I compared the window dimension on sets existing, comparing that to the proposed window sizes. And they were, a few windows were of 1.5 inches difference. And I said, did anybody verify that? And I think the architect at that time said, no, I did not go out there and verify. I also heard that the windows are already in the garage. That brought up some concern of mine. Now that, based on what our city staff had said, relating to us, that the architect had been out there working with the general contractor, verifying the sizes and all the detail are working. I think we can just need to hold them to that side of the conversation, that it's up to the architect to verify. If they don't match, they need to buy a new one. That's the only thing we can hold them to.
I too can support the project tonight, but I would just suggest that the motion have some specifics vis-a-vis the stucco and the representation made to us. In the event those representations prove to there be issue, there are issues, there are discrepancies that be addressed in the motion.
You want to do the motion or that anybody?
I said I'm open to whoever wants to make.
I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try. I'd like to move to approve design review case number DR 22-59 at 2560 Canterbury Road for window replacement with the additional condition that the windows that are being replaced are the correct size, and there's no stucco needed to be repatched per the architect's presentation and the sharing the information with us, that if any of the non-permitted installation that needed to be reworked, the team will follow what's presented on the plan to remove the stucco that are not done correctly to match the existing stucco finish and color, so that it looks like it is a seamless match to the existing building. That would be my motion.
And that's based on the information, may I just say on the record, that was presented to staff and that was presented to us tonight at the hearing.
Correct. It's staff read the architect presentation, so we're gonna hold that. We're gonna have that in a minute, so staff will understand, and anybody they could understand that.
I can second that. Staff roll call, please.
Committee Member Batney,
Yes.
Committee Member Chang,
Yes.
Committee Member Laycomb,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chow,
Yes.
and Chair McKay.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 with additions of approval.
Thank you. Move on to item number 4 on the agenda. This is design review case number 22-06 and design review case number 23-54 at 1255 Lorraine Road. Presenting this from staff.
And so presented by Assistant Planner Eric G. Presenting case number GR 2306 and 23-54 at 1255 Lorraine Road for the construction of 925 square foot addition to the roof. The addition consists of a 589 square foot single story addition and 336 square foot second story addition. Not subjected to the design review are the following: the side yard gate, the paving on the side and rear yard, and easement with the 2-piece rail mission per 1,000 year code. The property was identified in the citywide historic resource survey report as a potential district non-contributor to the Marinos district of the Spanish colonial arrival built in 1945 with a significant alteration compatible with the home. There are 5 no objections, 8 no responses, and 1 objection letter from 465 Lorraine Road. At this time, staff would like to note a mistake on the Senate report. It read Mr. Jerkins. It actually was Mr. Jenkins. I apologize for the mistake. The objection letter stated that the addition was not compatible to the neighborhood. Since then, the applicant and staff have worked to reduce the total square footage of the 2,214 square foot down to 925 square foot. Mr. Jenkins, while not providing the signed letter, input letter, has expressed his feedback at City Hall that he no longer objects to the project following the division. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA. The project meets all findings of staff, findings and staff recommends approval of the proposed project. And thank you, that concludes staff report. Staff is available to answer any questions that applicant or their representatives are available to answer.
Thank you, Assistant Planner G. Are there any questions from the committee for staff? Questions for staff? Okay. Is the applicant here or the applicant's representative who wish to speak to the committee? Please come forward, state your name and address, and when asked, notify minutes.
Hi, my name is Mason Ng. I'm speaking on behalf of Ricky Hong and for Reborn Design Studio in California.
More into the mic, please.
Yes. There's a PowerPoint for here. The project we bring up to the committee is 11255 Ryan Road, where next slide please. We're basically asking for an addition in the back that's not seen in the front. Next slide please. If you look at the next slide, the topography of the site is pretty flat. As you can see, next slide please. We're looking at next slide. Here are some pictures of the whole staking plan. As you can see, we really worked with some of the site conditions and being able to have some compatibility with our neighbors. Next slide. Next slide. There's some site considerations that we thought of. We were trying to match our next slide, please. Our neighbor 1265. As you can see, it's just a site plan of our lawn. Next one. So here's the overlay of what we were trying to do. Basically, we're expanding the back house or the back area of the family room. Next slide, please. And we are trying to, the design comes from matching the back of the house with our neighbor to just make it so that it's a little more respecting the privacy of the upper lots. And next slide, please. And for the second story, we also do the same. We try to align the second story to respect the neighbors. Next one, please. As you notice, there's also some site conditions like the existing 10-foot package that also provides privacy. So when we expand the family room on the back, that there will be some privacy between the neighbors. Next slide, please. As you can see, the calculations that we've done, the size of the house, 1265, we try to match the area, the similar area of their house, so that it would be part of, or that would help with the site compatibility. Next slide, please. So as we work through the proposed considerations, you can see that on the upper stories, on the northerly side and the easterly side, we don't provide windows to help protect the privacies of our neighbors. Next slide, please. And also, as we went through the design process, we at first, as you heard, our neighbor in the northerly side rejected our design because the design itself was really massive. And so as we worked with Assistant Planner G, we were able to then break down the mass a little bit more and have it so that the mass in the back kind of offsets on the plane, so that it itself, looking at the addition, would not look that large in the back. Next slide, please. And the materials we are using is, as you can see, we're using the Anderson windows, which is part of the pre-approved window material list. Next slide, please. And also we're the terracotta, the standard tiles that matches the color of the roofing materials. Next slide, please. As you can see, this is our design review board. We are also going to try to match lanterns on the lighting with existing lighting on the design. Next slide, please. So here's what we were initially proposing, which shows what our neighbors would be rejecting from, was a large living room design. And on top of that, next slide, please. We're proposing, next slide, please, a larger, I guess, expansion in the back of that area. But then after working with the Assistant Planner G, try to match the square footage and the site compatibility with the design. Next slide, please. So as you can see from this proposed design, we really work to try to reduce the massing of the addition, so that there's multiple pieces that are broken down, so that the design fits within the neighborhood. And that concludes, I guess, the presentation.
Thank you. Does any committee member have questions, comments for the applicant's representative?
Good Chair, I do have a couple of quick questions. On the window, the new window that you're proposing and the existing window, how are they working together? That's one. Two is the roof. Are you replacing the existing roof, or you will try to find something to match? Okay, I just want to understand what you kind of do.
Yes, so for the roofing, we're going to replace the entire roof with the new matching, with the new roof to match the color and aesthetics. For the existing windows, we're planning to replace them with more energy efficient windows, so that the entire facade.
But you're keeping the existing window though. You're not replacing the existing window, are you?
I believe we are going to replace the existing windows, but we will try to conform to the existing double hung double hung style and throughout the house.
I think it's critical that you are proposing to replace every window in the house. This is important.
Yes, I believe that was the case. But I believe that was in part of the design review that was brought up for this process. So I think that's something down the line that the owners would like to do.
It's not down the line. I think you need to make a decision. I think one of the conditions, if we're going to approve it, with that understanding, then this particular Henderson window will be replaced throughout the entire house. It will be in the condition of approval, and we could change later, otherwise you have to come back on the app and order the DRC. I want you to understand that.
If I may,
Are we talking, because I thought some of the windows were casement windows, and it's a different style. So if we change the functioning of the window from casement to double hung, then it is under our purview.
So the windows already supposed to be removed and for two windows.
That's right. So you're not removing any casement windows,
Oh.
casement style.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, I meant not casement, I meant like the entire window.
No, but right now they function as casement, they open out, as opposed to double hung style. So, because Spanish colonial revival usually have casement windows, it's part of the architectural feature of a Spanish colonial. So,
I believe it was casement from what was,
originally,
sorry, it was double hung. I remember looking at the photos. If you can go back to the last slide, you can see what we were talking about. Oh, sorry, which was the elevation. Please go to the full safety photos. It was existing on the facade.
Visual, so the windows are being replaced on for light, but the existing windows on the last are a mixture of the long and casement, so they're gonna replace all of that.
because, and usually PRC has purview if you're changing the function of the window. So currently I see double hung windows, and that's on the second story. That's correct, which is appropriate for Spanish colonials. And to put all those windows in double hung, it would not be
Oh, sorry.
compatible with both. Casement would be appropriate, yeah, in a Spanish colonial, as opposed to a double hung. Maybe you would say double hung in the kitchen with the shorter windows or in a bathroom, maybe,
Right.
maybe.
Apologies for that.
So based on the plans,
They're asking.
yeah. Three windows. Okay, three windows. According to the plans, you know, double hung with double hung. So your,
Yes, that's correct.
what's your proposal? Okay.
Okay, because the pictures showed double hung, not all the windows, on your new plans. The picture looks like double hung.
Well, are you talking about the photo rendering or the actual window schedule?
For the rendering.
The photo rendering, it might have been done by artistic purposes. Yeah, but the plan that we bought from the actual elevation lines. Of course, you can always make a condition so that we can make sure that we stick to what the window schedule identifies.
Yes, can you go to, in the supplementary materials for today? The page after it says 1255 Lorraine Road, so in the supplementary materials, it would be, page 6 or 7.
Are you asking staff to
Oh,
pull that up?
And that's because it wasn't, it's not in our font, so. It's the side by side, the rendering, and on the other side is the existing back of the house. Yes, ours. Yes.
It's on the plans.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's a supplement.
But this is supplemental.
Yeah, but I,
Oh, you combined them, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, in our pocket, it's page 6. In our online supplementary materials. It's the second page of 1255 million. There we go. So I have a lot of questions about the rendering on the right. So what is happening to the garage here?
Oh, the garage itself is, this is rendering is, used for the garage, and garage is.
The garage is,
Oh, it's detached garage. In the rendering doesn't, it's for the green space. Technically, there's it's not shown in the,
are there any plans for the garage? Should we move?
no, the garage.
Okay. Because I think that this is a little bit misleading because the biggest issue is that the garage, beginning of the garage, as you're as you're coming from the front of the house and going towards the back of the house, the way that this addition has been designed, as you know, is that the end of the addition is exactly a few feet away from the beginning of this garage. I'm not showing the, it's very tight, it's like 8 feet, 9 feet, something like that. Like it's really hard for 2 or 3 people to walk through that space. It's so tight. So, like when we pull up the site plan, please. And I just want to be sure that you're representing this correctly, because the rendering really misleading, I think, not to have shown the garage being there. You show it as like a side-by-side comparison with the original house as it is now, and the garage has disappeared from the right.
Right. Show more massing of the structure.
So, yeah, so I just want to clarify that the garage is remaining there.
It is, and I think, what we should have probably done is show 2 renderings, one with the garage, but I think the intent here was to give a full, image of the addition without the obstruction of the garage. So
And that's
we-
because you can't see it because it's
Right.
so tight, so you wouldn't be able to see the, okay. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up, I just wanted to ask you, like, in that rendering, you can cover that rendering, but we can also go to page. Because I have a question about this, that's why, about this, excuse me, okay, where it says, there's a page called proposed design.
Yes, that was the initial, the proposed design for the initial.
Well, there's a rendering there. Yeah, right after that. A few pages later. All right. Yes, that one. Okay. So that is how it's being, that is the proposal now, except that again, the garage is not there. Right?
That's correct.
That is the current proposal. So I just wanted to ask you, like, is that, what are this, like, the front of this house is very, very standard style, and as it was noted in the introductory remarks, this house has been named as a potential contributor to, as an excellent example of Spanish colonial, as a potential contributor to a neighborhood. So I'm just wondering, like, does the back of the house look like a Spanish style to you? Like, what are the Spanish elements of the back of the house? How does this, in terms of the massing in particular?
I think, think the reality we're trying to deal with the windows and the gray tiles and also the profile of the roof.
In terms of the massing.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, the clay tile is of course a classic Spanish colonial. And the windows and so what else? So in terms of the massing, how does it? Like, would you consider this a classic Spanish? Back in the house, back in the Spanish colonial house? Is it more of a Spanish colonial now than it was before, or less of a Spanish colonial now than it was before?
I think when we were designing this design was more of consideration of. I think currently I would say most of it. I think the roof line could give it difference closer to.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to get your opinion on that. Do you think that there are a lot of Spanish colonials where you, like, the end of the house is a few feet away from the garage? Like 8 feet, something along those lines?
I think that's hard to answer. Because I would say depending on the site condition.
That the garage and the addition are separated by 10 feet, which is the minimum required separation.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt that these plans are to code. I don't have any, there is like some greenery and a little walkway there and some plumbing there that would impede someone another couple of feet. So essentially the working space that's really between those two is much smaller. And certainly we don't have that represented in the renderings here. And it was very helpful. Thank you for putting up these story poles, because the story poles really did help me as I was standing there see that, you know, as soon as one building ends, another one begins. Yeah. So yeah, I really just wanted to ask you about the Spanish colonial style. What do you think of the addition that's in Spanish colonial style? I'm done.
Thank you, Committee Member Batten. Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Committee Member Chang.
If I may just ask a quick question. I had some difficulty trying to figure out all the window comparison. You did a schedule for the existing window, and your new windows are identified elsewhere. So that they are not comparing what's coming out, what's going in. So I try to compare your existing elevation to your new elevation and try to figure out what window can be replaced. It took me a while to even just to figure it out. I think it's only fair for us to have a better comparison as to what is being taken out, what type of window is taking out, and what type of window are going back in. By not doing the work now, it's going to be a disaster later, because once you get the project approved and you can't make it work, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So I suggest you to spend more time on understanding of each elevation, what the existing window type is, or either is remaining or being replaced with the new window under the same area, so we can compare window to window. If it's eliminated completely, stay there. So we can look at one window schedule and all of that together with the floor schedule. Right now, and you identify the window size of the new elevation. It took me a long time just to understand what you're trying to do. So that would be the best suggestion. Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative?
But I can where the representative is done speaking or done after
replace the entire roof. Could you use the regular barrel and not that S shape?
I guess we could make a consideration, but I would have to look for a material or a material that would work for that situation. That could be
Just the more traditional.
right. Or to make that work, I will have to look for a replacement material.
But you're replacing it anyway. I mean, because you've already selected this one.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We can go for a different selection of material to
Okay.
make that work.
And then, would you consider not removing casement style or using casement style as opposed to double hung on some of the bedroom windows, the upstairs windows?
It could be, or that could be a consideration, to just bring it back more closer to a Spanish revival. Is that where we're heading towards to?
And then maybe add some architectural detail to the addition. So that's kind of almost like a hotel kind of look, but maybe add some element that's from the front and the original portion, some wood, having the wood in the eaves.
They need details. I think what we're trying to say is that, pick the correct style of the building. And whatever the addition is, you may want to consider some of those critical architecture elements are there. So far, it looks, this, no, it's an addition, and there's not much in there, especially when the window styles are so mixed with what's out there and what you're proposing, and it's not very clear. So I hope you spend more time working.
That's nothing. And then my last comment is the ficus hedge that is there now. Looks very mature.
Right.
If my understanding is the ficus hedge is very invasive roots. Correct? And having that close to addition is going to be problematic.
We're going to leave it there, under the foundation.
Something happened and you'd have to remove the ficus.
Right, so there will be a unfortunate, there will be, and we'll replace with something like a light with happen. Type of privacy issue that we have with the neighbors.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, thank you very much. Any members of the public present here who wish to speak on this? Microphone, yes.
My name is Sabra Larson, and I'm on the opposite side of the house.
Which side exactly?
That would be, I'm at 1243,
Lorraine,
so right.
the west side.
So I guess is right, is west. So when we had the picture up of the modern style house, I have a couple concerns because his driveway is very narrow. And I was wondering if he was gonna try and remove that kitchen wall and or if the kitchen, that wall is gonna remain there. And then I know he was trying to match the house, the opposite side of us. He pointed that out in his rendering, but he didn't necessarily do it for our house. So when he's building out, my room will look into his house. And so I'm wondering if he's not gonna have any windows on the side. That also block my view looking out. And then also in the rendering, when you have the modern design, it looks like there's a lot of greenery, but the end of the driveway becomes my property. So it looks like his property is bigger in that drawing than what it is. And I also do have a concern, it looks, because I see the wood in the back, and it looks like that and the garage starts, and it does look very narrow, and then there's a pool, and I'm wondering, after all that's done, where's the gate gonna be placed on that side? So I do have a lot of questions.
Thank you. Does the applicant's representative wish to respond to this public comment and have an additional 3 minutes?
if, I guess the commentator was worried, or was worried about, privacy concerns. If you go to the slide showing the second story, it actually does align really closely to her second story, so you can't really, and plus there's no windows, so you can't really peer into the neighbor's property on the lot. Also, if she's concerned about, if she's concerned about the driveway being, I guess, too, yeah, I would say, too, how to say, too narrow. We could always propose to make it larger, but I think that'd be a discussion that could be presented.
Okay.
The driveway, so that it's a little bit further from the neighboring property. But I don't know, that would be up to design.
You would be amenable to that, you're saying?
Yes, if they really did need to move it so that it's a bit further away.
Usually it's made space to move your driveway over.
Or change the, like a couple feet if we were to replace that, that entire wall. I mean, I think the clients would be amenable to that, but that'd be for further discussions.
Right. Okay, thank you. Are there any other public, anybody else here present who would like to speak on this application? Please approach the microphones over here and give your name.
Okay, my name is Eve Johansson. I live on, this is my daughter, 1243, so we are right to the west. So the driveway then will not be changed. It will not be widened. It will
That's not
stay
part of the
same.
application.
It is not part of, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 1243 Lorraine Craft. Anybody else here present would like to speak from the public on this application? Is there anybody online? Okay, hearing none, we now close the public comment portion of this item and bring it back to the committee for discussion. Member Lakon.
Thank you. Well, I think I appreciate the applicant discussing and working with neighbors to your east, reducing the size helps privacy. But I am concerned about your neighbor to the west. I'd also like to see the addition be more compatible with the Spanish colonial revival. I'd like to see casement style windows. I also have a concern about now this isn't really a design feature, but practically speaking, when the applicant is using the homeowner, I don't know where they're gonna enter the side of the house when they come in on the driveway. So they're gonna want to come very close to the house because if you want to start unloading your car, you're gonna have to go around to that front door, which is on the other side. So people will be driving all the way back, which would be very close to the garage, and then there's no space. I just think that it's going to be very, it's going to be not very conducive to using the driveway. And it's going to be, I think, an inconvenience for the homeowner. And I would reconsider doing that. So I could support continuance tonight. In hopes that the applicant would come back with something a little more compatible with the style of the home. And with some of those features I mentioned. Thank you. Committee Member Chang.
Thank you, Chair. I concur with what was being said. I think it's a good project. It's a beautiful home in a very attractive neighborhood. I think there's still work to be done on these plans. I mentioned earlier about the understanding of the window replacement. The overall mass thing, I don't have any big problem with it, but I definitely feel that the existing garage and the new addition are being so close. The proposed landscape areas kind of cut that off completely. The owner would have to back all the way out into the driveway, which could create a very dangerous situation. So I would expect the designer to spend time understanding how are they going to be able to drive out correctly, being a narrow driveway and a long driveway. The rest of them, again, back under the architecture detail, I would definitely suggest them to understand the style of the home, and whatever addition that they do is to be cohesive to the entire elevations on four sides. And I can somewhat continue on this.
Thank you. Committee member Batman.
Yes, I want to echo the previous two committee members on what they said, and I'm going to repeat that as well, that this is not a Spanish colonial style addition. It really lacks the massing that is typical of a Spanish colonial. We don't want something to add something to this house that makes it any less of Spanish colonial. You know, it needs to retain that character. It has a beautiful, beautiful Spanish colonial character in front. And currently it has some Spanish colonial character in the back. But this addition, we see a lot of this lately, and I want to mention this very briefly, that we see these like massive wings coming out of houses in the back. And I don't know why, maybe it just seems easy to somehow, maybe it's easier, maybe it's cheaper, I'm not really exactly sure, but we see that a lot, and unless it's a ranch house, in which case sometimes that works with a ranch style, because that is an architectural feature of ranch style homes to some extent. It typically does not work with a Spanish colonial or really a lot of the other styles in town, so that you see so often, certainly not this one. So when we talk about increasing the compatibility of this addition, I want to emphasize that we're not talking about like using tiles that are more Spanish colonial. We're talking about reshaping the massing of this addition. I really want that to be clear to the applicant, at least from my point of view. This is just a bizarre, like, there's this domino in the back that goes from, you know, there's front, and then it's a little bit, then there's another little addition, and then there's another little addition, and it just it does not look like a Spanish colonial at all from the back. So I would hope that the applicant would really take this to heart, that they've heard this mentioned by two other committee members. You're hearing it from me again. I think it is very problematic. Part of the problematic aspect of the massing is that as soon as this addition ends, another structure begins. And so we heard before that it was 10 feet, which is correct. I assume it to be correct. But as I mentioned, there's like this little walkway, and there's this landscaping walkway, and there's this ponding. And now I just noticed on the plans that actually 2 AC units are supposed to be there. So there is no way that that is safe to have the end of an addition be, 10 feet, and then we've cut off another, let's say, at least 3 feet for a condenser, I would think. I believe the condensers are around 3 feet square. And so now you're talking about, there's no room to move there. It's not even, it's a safety problem at that point, but it's also a massing and design problem. So it's both of those problems, and I hope that the applicant does not think that, like, oh, okay, I'll just pull it back by 1 foot and like it'll all be fine. I think you've heard your neighbors say that they would also like to have a little bit more space or whatever between that neighbors. And I also want to point out that there's these comparisons that are made in the materials that we were given with the neighbor to the east. And the difference is that the neighbor to the east has their garage, I don't know, it looks like maybe 30 feet away from the rear of their house. So it really isn't fair to make that comparison of matching and say, oh, well, we're just matching our neighbors. Well, that other neighbor doesn't have another building, like almost abutting it. So, and then as you pointed out, with the comparison to your house isn't exactly fair either, because you have from what I could see, like an outdoor, what do you call it? A covered porch. And so that massing doesn't like, on one side, the massing might line up a bit, but on the other side, it does not. It's jutting way out from the other neighbor. We have to be concerned about all neighbors, not just one. So I think there's a lot of issues here. I hope that I am okay with a continuance, but I would hope that the applicant would come back with something really quite a bit scaled back in this edition. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Jack.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm not going to comments because we said quite a bit. I think that the applicant representative is taking those and understanding that. I think I agree with everything that has been said so far. I just want to give my two impressions when I visited the site. Of course, there's some overlapping there. Understand, so I'll make it brief. Again, it's the style of the cushion, the sheer massing of it. There's barely a path, just moving the probe. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel it's compatible with the property itself. And I also find it interesting that the second story cushion completely blocks the window of your east side neighbor's view. Before, right now, currently they can see blue sky, they can see green grass, and then in the future, when they open that window, it's going to be wall. So I also find that interesting. I know that the neighbor currently signed off, but those are just my observations.
Thank you. I wholly concur with my fellow committee members, and I just want to thank the applicant for the presentation and for taking the time to listen to the committee tonight. I'd like to thank the neighbors for coming and giving us their thoughts, impressions, and concerns. Thank you. I would like to point the applicant to the City of San Marino Residential Design Guidelines, page 19, where it specifically says, and this is something that you could reference so that you can come back to it, on additions should maintain the look and appearance of the existing primary structure so that they do not appear as an addition or new building. They should respect the architectural style, scale, and rhythm of the existing primary structure. Additions should be architecturally compatible with the existing primary structure and furthermore in harmony with the neighborhood. An addition should complement and balance the overall form, mass, and composition of the existing primary structure on the property. That's page 19 of our city's residential design guidelines. And I think that it's clear that we don't have that compatibility with the current project, so I could support only a continuance. I share my fellow committee members' concerns about the proximity to the garage, and committee member Lacon's concern about the proximity of the property line and that change. So we could get a motion to continue, but I do want to say to the applicant, if the committee decides to make a motion to continue, I would hope that when you come back before us, that you realize that the presentation tonight and some of the comments of my fellow committee members have revealed that there were some misleading aspects of the overall project application and even the presentation tonight. And I'm sure that wasn't intentional, but it created confusion, including as to the windows. And I would hope that it could be very transparent and straightforward and clear next time that you are. So that, do we have a motion? Motion. I will move to continue case GRC 2206 and 2354 at 1255 Lorraine Road.
I second that.
Before starting case roll call, we would just like clarification on one point that you asked the applicant, which is going after the windows. So the home currently has double hung and casement windows. And currently they're proposing a like for like replacement. there was a mention that you would like to see bedroom windows changed if they have existing double hung to casement, but not the entirety of the windows to be casement. So you want some casement windows in the home, but some double hung is fine.
Casement, as a staff point would have. We're
Yeah.
looking for, I think, compatibility with the structure. With itself.
The existing structure has majority of double hung windows existing. We can make that change now, but I just want clarification.
But I think if they have double hung already, they can replace the double hung, they're the same space, right? What's in their purview.
I will let the committee give clear direction to the applicant as to what you would like to see, but I think what I'm hearing is that you would like to see casement windows. However, perhaps certain situations, hung windows just to replace like for like, if possible. It's okay, but you think you would like to see a full replacement, but if not, at least a good effort that they replace what they can with casement windows. Is that correct?
I think we could concur with that, correct? I mean, we're speaking all hypothetically. The project is doing it. Right. We're saying that the addition of casement. Casement window, the way they're presenting it is not appropriate for the style house, right? So
Okay, I can take roll call.
roll call, please.
Committee member Betty,
Yes.
committee member Chang,
Yes.
committee member Lakon,
Yes.
vice chair Chow,
Yes.
and chair McKay.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 5-0 for continuance to a date uncertain.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 5, which is design review case number 22-68, design review case number 23-14, and design review case number 23-46 at 1555 Wilson Avenue. Who is presenting this from staff?
This is an honor to review presenting case number 322-68 and basis at 155 Wilson Avenue. The applicant is proposing to construct a thousand next door pedestrian storage issue. One service to a culture issue, place existing windows, and install new density and price for the front yard. The project includes the following subject to review, installation of a front yard and converting that is below 25% of impervious coverage. The subject property is also included for the approval permit to the removal of 3 trees and 124 and 123. The higher owners will also oversee the installation of the front yard gate to ensure the oak trees are protected. The property that is as significantly classified as material level is Spanish for violence. Minimum historical assessment report concludes that the property is not historical resource pursuant to equal evidence. The project is compatible to then and support the project in all findings and staff recommends approval of the project. Thank you. That staff report on staff available concerning questions and applicant representatives are available.
Your assistant manager, G. Are there any questions for staff from committee members? Member Chang.
Maybe a quick question on the percentage of the proposed hardscape in the front yard to be checked on the percentage that is being proposed.
Yes, it is.
That's the same the allowable percentage.
Yes.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant or applicant's representative here? If you wish to make a presentation? So please give your name and address.
Good evening. My name is John Vandeveld. I am the architect working with the owners, John and Adriana, that are here tonight. And we also have our landscape architect, Amy Jones, with me. Questions kind of concerning planting and paving the front yard. Just to pick up on Eric's presentation, I thought it was covered well, but I just wanted to focus on kind of our strategy with this project. The intent was to be, approaching this project in a very deliberate fashion, adding on in such a way that we were sensitive to what's there and what's in the neighborhood. So for that reason, the second floor was not expanded at all, which you can see on the plans. The first floor has very minimal additions that face the front, and they're set back quite far, and have very generous setbacks on the side as well. I also wanted to point out, this isn't always the case, but when you look at the neighborhood map, 12 properties were designated, and prior to the project, this property had the least amount of livable area as a percentage of its lot size. And after the addition, it's still the second smallest house with respect to its lot size. And I just want to say again, this is kind of, in my mind, black and white, that we're trying to keep this project to a minimum, in the sense that the massing of the house has really been kept at a low. And most of the massing is happening behind the house. I think that's it. Yeah, so if you have any questions about the design or the materials, or I can go through the floor plan. I was under the impression we would have it on the screen, but if there's questions specific about the floor plan elevations, I'm happy to answer those.
We can put things on the screen
Okay.
as appropriate. Are there any questions for the applicant's representative? Any other change?
I do have some questions on the landscape portion. Is that something that you can answer? You want to open up?
I'd like to invite you, if that's okay.
Hi, I'm Amy Jones and the landscape architect.
Okay, thank you. I just want to understand that whole perimeter fencing that you're proposing, both sides and the front, with the spike design. I found it to be a little bit overwhelming. It's just too much. Can you share with us your design reason, concept, and why the spikes?
Well, as it is right now, there is no fencing or security for the property. And as you can see, it's a significant property in that area. And there has been some incidences of crime even since our clients have moved in. And it will be screened sporadically with some landscaping. There is a 10-foot landscaped area, the right of way, that will have landscaping. So you're not going to see 4 feet of fence. You might see, if you want to reference the elevation, you can get a better sense of what it'll look like with the landscaping in front of it. I think it's L 1.2 or L 1.3. One of them is inside, I think it's L 1.3. There's an elevation that shows the fence with the landscape in front of it. It's the very last page. And there's a high degree of transparency because they're 6 inches apart. And it will be broken up by the two gates, by the two pilasters that are to match the existing stucco piers of the driveway.
That's one of my question was that it's usually not very common for us to have these spikes done on the large extensive perimeter. It's kind of taking it away from the softness of the landscaping, the welcoming neighborhood feel. So,
They do have tiny little balls on the tips. So they're not the 21s.
maybe it's just the
It has a metal ball.
Yeah.
That's not clear from this, but.
Well, yeah, if you look on look at the,
On the detail, it's a little, it's hard to.
well, it is there. And,
Have any more close up?
I can confirm that there's a tiny little ball on the point. of each. Like,
Do you think, may I ask you a question, Chair? Do you think that the applicants would be open to perhaps changing that style of the fence?
I think they would.
I almost never ever see this. I know it's not technically a spike, like a security spike, but it still is that style.
Yes,
I
it
see some
is,
modern-
it is indicative of Spanish or Mediterranean landscaping. Okay, we will change it,
Or open to changing.
open to changing. I mean, it is actually very typical of Mediterranean fencing, so.
Member Chang, are you at all, are your concerns assuaged at all by the notion that there's a ball on the top?
Yeah, I am basically satisfied. That on your hardscape portion, was that you trying to make it a more inviting entrance to the
Yes.
front yard?
I don't know if you visited the property, but as of now, there's really no front door. And the idea was that instead of having visitors, guests drive into the driveway, and it's kind of dangerous to come back out because of the turn in Wilson there, is for them to park on the street and come in through the pedestrian gate to the front. And the client also they wanted a better sense of entry and also a space in the front where they could entertain if they so desire. And keep in mind that the trees that are all in that new plaza will also have a little bit of landscaping under them. And it's, as you can see by the visit to the property, it is very shaded there already. So the trees we're planting will be more pedestrian in scale since the massing of the trees on the exterior are these large majestic oaks. So that's the point, is to keep it more sort of pedestrian scale in the center of the property.
All of the members of the committee.
Oh,
have property.
good.
I don't know if. Just want to speak very briefly on the impetus for the changes on the front, which I understand were dictated from the issues relating to not having a significant front door. I will let front entrance and that continue. I will let Jones.
Yeah, that's correct. So if you visited the property, you probably had the same experience I did. You kind of wandered 3 different directions before you found the place to actually, knock on the front door. So, the house was built in 1921, and shortly after that, had a few kind of minor adjustments, and then in the 50s, they enclosed a music room off the living room. And I believe it was the 80s where they expanded the back and built a family room. Garage was added and ADU was added. And then more recently in 2012, they added that extension that goes to the west. That's the one that has the archway, the bedroom up above. So anyhow, it was built in the 20s, but it was serially added on to, and at no point did anybody ever acknowledge that it didn't have a front door, it didn't have a presence facing Wilson. And so part of this exercise was, how can we dress up the front? How can we make it relate to some of the pieces that are already here? And one of those pieces was that arch that you see on the west side of the house. And the idea was to kind of carry that theme across the front porch and just kind of make it tie in better and give the house an actual front door that faces Wilson. And then again, that ties into the whole plaza that we just created in the front yard.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for the applicant's representatives? Thank you. We'll close. Is there any member of the public who wants to speak on this project?
name's John Wong. I'm the owner of the property. First of all, thank you for all your time right now. I know this is everyone here. Just want to thank you. As our architect said, we bought this house, well, we bought this house 2 years ago, and I've grown up in San Marino, so I grew up in San Marino, went to Lafayette. My family went to Lafayette. I just came back 2 years ago. The house itself is a lovely house, but the front of the house almost looks like the back of the house. With all the windows and everything else, it's quite strange to us. So we wanted to have a great sense of arrival for the house, and that's why we did what we did with the arches and so forth to make it much more appealing. As far as the front of the house, it's quite a big front yard, and it's almost like when we got there, it was kind of like forest-like actually, a lot of stuff going on. So what we really wanted to do is clean up the front yard, make it more park-like setting, and make it more much better when you're driving by for us too. And just to Cheng's point, as far as the fencing, we've already talked to all our neighbors and made sure that even though we're not responsible per se, we will make sure that there's landscaping along the perimeter of the fencing, and making sure that it's nice and soft, because our neighbors to the west of us or north of us have been living there for a long, long time. They're very nice people. We want to make sure that's supported. So I want to thank everybody for their time, and happy to answer any questions that you have for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this project? Seeing none, is there anybody online who submitted a public comment or wishes to speak? We'll close the public hearing portion of this and move it to any other discussion. I actually could support the project as it's presented this evening. I find the changes compatible with the home, and I do agree with the spikes, the spears that we thought were on the fencing, but I do find the little balls to be compatible. Those are very, very nice design features. So I think that it works well with the trees and the arches. And I think I could support us as presented tonight. Thank you. Committee member Shank.
I also feel that this is going to be a major improvement to the project architecturally and also landscape wise. It's about time that we see some major improvement to improve that property. So I can support it. I'll leave it to the architect and the landscape architect on that fencing design, because with a freeze sketch on the rendering, it's hard to see the exact detail of the spike, and I don't think we want to encourage that kind of, well, keep out of my property kind of feeling. So I'll leave it to the designer to come up with it. I'm sure they more than capable of getting the right design for it. So I have no problem supporting it.
Thank you. Committee member Batman.
Yeah, overall, I think that this is going to kind of clarify this house, kind of make a little more sense of it. My theory is that this house once, was owned by someone like Wilson and looked at the way that the front door is now, that once looked over someone's, orange orchard or something like that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I think that this does make more sense of it now because the way the property is oriented, it seems like it should be more of south facing entrance. I think it looks better. And so it's always nice when we get a project that comes and it's going to look better than it does now. It's going to look more compatible to itself. And it is a little bit of a hodgepodge and how it's been added to over the years, but I think that this is an improvement for sure. My only concern, I did want to talk to you about this a little bit more, is the fencing, because the way it's sort of sketched out, it does look nice, but we've always had a lot of concerns in San Marino about making sure we don't create, compounds and that we have this inviting look. And we have very often denied, if I would remind this committee, we have very often denied fencing. Yes, it looks lovely with the proposed landscaping. Is the proposed landscaping always going to be there? No. So I would just maybe like to talk about that a little bit. But otherwise, I could approve the budget as presented this evening.
Thank you. Vice Chair Shen.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think, remember that was kind of house. I do have concerns about the fencing, and I drive through here all the time. And I mean this as a compliment. I actually have never really noticed the house. Because that street is not like a, using the word, you don't have any houses that's like a compound. My concern is that with the width of this property, you're going to feel like once you make that turn on the right hand side, is going to be all this fencing along the right hand side of you. So I have concern about that. Landscaping comes and goes. The fencing, once it's there, it's there. We don't know if the landscaping is going to be successful or not. If it's going to be softened, successful enough to have a soft look to continue some of the beautiful characters of the current property. So, and I also think the 4-foot tall fencing is seems a little bit aggressive. I took a tape measure out today. Actually, just took it outside and kind of give myself a visual reference. And if you imagine the whole width of that property in front, which is quite significant. So that's my first concern, and also think that this project has all the potential project. Like the architect said that we want the applicant wants to carry the architecture throughout the whole place from west to east. I feel that the current addition, the side point, it seems like the architectural interest just kind of stopped there. It's like a rectangular shape that now is starting to look a little like the back of your house, not the front of your house. So those two, I think I can support of experience. I think this project has great potential. I would like to. I hope that we get a chance to. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's open it up a little bit more for discussion about the concerns that Vice Chair Chow has raised, as well as the issue of the fence and gate fence. Is it the case that the committee would find it more palatable if it was not as tall? I appreciate Member Batnish's comments and asking the committee to reflect back on other projects. I would also ask the committee to reflect back on projects on Lombardy and Hewen. Pictures to the projects were presented and I believe approved. And I also am cognizant of the concern about security. And I think we've taken that into grave consideration, especially on Lombardy. And Wilson is a very open street, a very heavily trafficked street, an avenue. I don't think it's an exaggeration to get to Southwest, other aspects west. So let's discuss that a little bit.
Madam Chair, can I interject real quick? One of the concerns was about what happens if the landscape doesn't remain. And I just wanted to let the committee know that one of the options you have available is that you can condition this project to have the installation of landscaping in perpetuity with the fence. So in other words, the fence is up, you can condition it that there has to be landscaping. I'll throw that out there.
Thank you, Director.
The chairman, we have previously approved projects that the landscaping percentage of opacity, we can even identify that, meaning that if we want 50%, that we have to have 50% of landscaping within that fencing area that always maintained. If they drop below that, they need to work on that to keep that opacity. So I've seen that happen. We have approved project like that before. So that will help us on understanding that there's always landscaping there. 4 feet, I agree with Member Chow that is a little bit aggressive, and, but it's going to be buried into the landscape area, maybe after the applicant whether the 3-foot fence is something that workable.
Just to remind the committee, if you look at finding number 4, it does state that the design review committee or commission, meaning planning commission, may not reduce the maximum permitted height, increase the maximum required setback, or decrease the maximum permitted of any fence, gate, guard, wall, or retaining wall. You can obviously ask the applicant if they're amenable to it, but the committee cannot do that.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's still a thought.
That's right. Committee Member Bench.
The other thing is that there are lights on top of the there's pilasters, yes, and normally that's not something that we approve.
Staff like to know if the pilasters are existing. The lights are existing. They're actually legal non-conforming. So they were approved through a permit, but they don't meet today's current code standards.
Then it's irrelevant. I did not notice that today. So is it the 2 that are flanking the driveway, the pilasters with the lights that are flanking the driveway? Is that
Yes,
the 2?
those are
That
the
is
existing.
Not the, there's no, obviously, there's no pedestrian walkway yet. They're showing also 2 lights there.
Yeah, the smaller ones is proposed, but the existing tall pilasters that show the driveway, those are existing.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
So Chair, if I may add to my comment. Really discussion. So I understand the point that we cannot ask for reduce the maximum height. I understand that. But if you suggest if the applicant is available, then we can suggest and we should email and put that into condition.
We can.
That's okay.
We can't condition it, but we can have a dialogue with them and they can agree to it, correct?
Right. Yeah. So, so my question is that if the applicant is amenable to the lower, not talking about the things, does that make sense if we say that, well, would be better, it's good, I think it's really good, but is that meaningful? Is that a conversation, discussion we want to entertain?
That house is one of the original houses that was built on Wilson. A lot of them are gone and they cut them up and made them into cul-de-sacs, like the Valentine house used to be down the street. This house, I believe, is the Munzel house or the Hudson house, one of the architects. And it was featured on the original brochure of the city when they
started selling houses. So I think that it is a much grander property than many of the other ones nearby, a much grander house than some of the other ones. But I think that it's got such a wide frontage and a deep setback that it is so open compared to a lot of the house on Wilson. And Wilson is a usual street where it doesn't have sidewalks. So we have that setback, and then it gets heavily trafficked. I think people cutting through to get to other cities, and it's dark, and that particular house is so, they're also different. There's even a house across the street around, like when you turn the corner, that it's a chain link fence, and you can see a pool, and that looks, I mean, that house looks, that's awful looking, right? And this, I understand wanting to have some sense of security, and if we ask them to reduce it or to make it different, or we end up with another hedge, it's actually not as safe. And that, police can't see over through a hedge that's 4 feet tall. They want it 4 feet the most, but it's really not safe for a homeowner to have a hedge that's completely blocking the street. So I think this being this beautiful, I think it's a beautiful design that's complementary to the style of the house. And it is giving them a sense of security, and it's still open, and it's appropriate. And I don't, if the neighbors aren't minding, I don't think it's something that is working where all of a sudden everybody's going to want to have one on the street. Right? So I'm thinking this house is a unique house in the area, and I don't think the other ones would even lend to that look. So my point is that this one is complementary to the house, whereas it wouldn't be with another house nearby because the houses are so different here. But this one really is really open, and people are walking to the town in the middle of the night, and there is no sidewalk. People are wandering up on your easement, and I think it's very dark there. I would feel very much more comfortable with something secure that is beautiful.
If I can continue the discussion. I find what the committee member is saying is really persuasive. My hesitation is as I think we've discussed before, fences are, they're like a virus, like suddenly everybody wants one. But I think if I understand your point, is that the other homes nearby really don't, like they won't warrant fencing, let's say, the same way that this one does. This is what I understand you're saying. I kind of agree with you on that. Like the other homes nearby are not as like, as you say, ground or so. Yeah.
It's a very unique property on that street, there's no question. And there's some very unique features of the street generally.
I certainly understand the concern with security. I think all the homes here in San Marino, you want to have better security. However, I just again want to put in front of you the compatibility with the neighborhood. This will be pretty much the only one. Then what is the where do we draw the line, right? If you look at this property by itself, that's significant. It looks good, but is it compatible for the neighborhood? So I think enough discussion in my view. I certainly respect everybody's opinion, but that's kind of my question there.
If I may make one more remark, I think this property is unique enough that could set a trend and try to uplift that neighborhood. I have confidence that what's in front of us between the architect and landscape architect and the owner have the desire to uplift this home and could uplift that corner, because I look at the property across the street when it was on the market for sale. I look at that area quite well. One of my daughter's high school member lived across the street with a pool in the front in the corner. So I know that neighborhood is kind of mixed over the years, and there's no direction, meaning that you do whatever you want kind of neighborhood. I'm just hoping one day that this will set a direction that people feel that, well, Wilson, that part is very nice. I think people will do that. You need somebody to take the lead and say, I'm going to do it, and your neighbor will follow. So I'm not changing my mind. I'm still going to support the project.
All right, do we have consensus as to whether we are going to impose conditions or we're going to support it as is?
I think that given what our community planning director was mentioning, that we can condition the landscaping next to a fence, I think I am comfortable. I really do very much appreciate your remarks about the fencing, but overall, I think maybe this is a property to merit it. As long as we condition I think I would be comfortable conditioning the landscaping. I don't know how we do that, but I'm sure that we will get some help on that. I think that's
well, I don't really have a thought because it's not something that I can say, well, let's just plant certain hedges, bushes. It's just not, it's not realistic, wouldn't be appropriate on the spot. So it would be somehow very good, perhaps. That's kind of a artist rendering of how exactly.
All right, are we talking about a percentage? Percentage of capacity, what are we talking about? What is acceptable?
Well, I think when I was hearing from the committee, there's the idea is to maximize for the view of the fence to the maximum that it can. So I think the installation of hedges to buffer or whatever.
Whatever. Right, landscape as indicated on the rendering, but perhaps up in the percentage of it. I think it's, well, I think it's.
Well, that's really, I guess
That's not.
really-
We can't read this. Fence with that. Applicants.
You want to see certain kind of openness. So,
Correct.
so if you make it too dense, it's not good either.
Right, so I'm just trying to get some.
I would say somewhere between 30–40% coverage is all we want, no more than that, because
That's the point of it, is to keep it.
we want to kind of keep it open, so it looks good.
I think it would be more prominent if there was no trees. I think the fact that those trees are being planted. If we didn't have trees, then it would be a different story.
If I may just make one more remark, we have to have some faith to our profession, and the landscape architect and the architect on this project, I definitely have faith in them, and to see to the project will come out correct. And I think there's enough discussion. I hope the input.
Yeah.
seriously. And I think the owner also want to have a property improvement that they can be proud of.
Are we transitioning right now to a motion to accept? Are we? Yeah. Is this discussion transitioning to a motion accepted as proposed?
If you want to, I think this easy, have other people comment.
All right. I think a fulsome discussion tonight has convinced me that this project is moving to clarity. It's moving to clarity of the property as compatible with itself. And I also find that it's compatible with the legal neighborhood. And I very much appreciate the thought and consideration that has been put into the project and the application. Thank you very much. By the architect, by the landscape architect, also the care and consideration for the neighbors. That's much appreciated. So I could support it, but I want to be sensitive to my fellow committee members' concerns and whether there should be conditions of any kind or any sort of dialogue.
What is the harm about in a condition of 50%, I guess, opacity or whatever the term is of frontage? What's the harm in that? Like, what could go wrong?
I'm not seeing it, but I guess there's some concern about that it's the discussion is being answered a little bit on this, so.
I think that's a very good question. As long as we don't get into the area or something that the director of staff thinks that is incorrect. I think I'd like to maybe have us consider a position that there is plenty of landscaping between the street and the fence to let's just say 50% is soften the used to or has to be. Is that something that we think?
Well, I have to rewrite the condition that I was going to propose.
Are you talking instead of grass, you want to see? Planting like that, but not.
Grass is not gonna opt to do it.
We have to like take lavender.
Well,
Because the proposed we can only go 2 feet high. Okay, that's proposed. And it's comfortable. Okay. Yeah, so it's as proposed. Okay. As proposed.
So let me,
I think that's because.
The nature of.
seeing that we're close, maybe we have 2 more items. Let me read out the condition and you can add or leave it as is. Landscaping as identified in the landscaping plan shall be installed in perpetuity with the approved fence. You want to add a sentence to that?
The committee wants to add 50%.
Immediately adjacent to the fence?
So landscaping is identified.
Sounded like it could be anywhere.
Okay. Let's make sure the condition is.
So
It's
you
in
want
front of
to.
it's in front of the fence, right?
Landscaping is identified in the landscaping plan shall be installed in front of the fence. Security. Let me work on it, but I think I got it.
Vice Chair, 50%?
Thank you, yeah.
Yes, let's incorporate 50%.
In front of the fence as identified in the landscaping plan shall be installed in perpetuity.
Did you say 50%?
I add this.
No, that's, it needs to be 50.
I don't think so.
Landscaping in front of the fence as identified in the landscaping plan with an opacity of 50% shall be maintained in perpetuity.
So Chair, we would like to end the motion. Like to make a motion.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to approve design review case number 22-8, 23-14, and DR 23-46 at 1555 Wilson Avenue with the added condition that the planning director has just decided requiring the fencing and the opacity of the landscape.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
Committee member Manish,
Yes.
committee member Chang,
Yes.
committee member Lecom,
Yes.
vice chair Chow,
Yes.
and chair McKay.
Yes.
So that motion passes 5-0 with the added condition of approval.
That's a question to Mr. Wong. Dr. John Wong and Olivia. Oh my God. I know your parents well. So I have no idea that you are Dr. John Wong's son. Okay. Congratulations. We'll go back to the.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 6 on the agenda. This is design review case number GR 23-18 at 2571 Mission Street. Staff report on this item.
Assistant Manager G presenting case number DR 23-18 at 2571 Mission Street for the request to propose painted wall sign. The subject property is not identified as a PY property list. There were 11 nodules. Project is category of the project is all funding and staff recommends approval of this project. Staff reports that is available to answer questions that the applicant's representatives are available to answer.
Thank you, Assistant Planner G. Are there any questions for staff? Questions for staff? I have a question for staff. I want to clarify the comment in the staff report on item number 1, that the proposed structure is compatible with the neighborhood. There's a statement here, there are existing businesses in the neighborhood, 2569 Mission Street and 2545 Mission Street that contain painted signs on awnings. But on those properties, those properties have awnings and the signs are on the awnings, and that is not the proposal that is for us is not correct.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Hearing none, is the applicant or applicant's representative here to present this project? If so, if you'd like to present, if you come up to the microphone, please, and give your name. Sarah Arkenhall, I'm a Pasadena resident. Currently the manager at Provisions in San Marino. I'm very familiar with the neighborhood as I'm here on behalf of our owner, Catherine Welch, who grew up in the South Pasadena, San Marino area, and I've worked for her for over 10 years in many capacities. Now I oversee the day-to-day at the store, and I help put the proposal together with Catherine.
If you're not totally familiar with provisions yet, we're a small specialty grocer, specializing in locally made goods, healthy snacks, organic produce, also produce from some farm in Paso Robles. Had a really great grand opening in January. Warmly welcomed by the neighborhood, expressing their gratitude to us and excitement that we're in the neighborhood. However, we still get many residents asking, how long have you been here? Or they walk and drive by every day and they say that they walk and drive by every day and don't notice us. So we want the community to know that, we're here, so we want to stand out and also be in line with some of the other new businesses opening recently on Mission Street, such as Apsara Coffee, Pizzanista, and the Mission Well Collective across the street, who have a really bright, vibrant white painted storefronts, really bringing a lot of vibrancy to the shops on Mission. So we thought it fitting and basically necessary to give the storefront a much needed facelift that we think it deserves. So our goal would be to remove the existing brown awning, fabric awning, and add a real minimal classic touch, keeping the update very simple with a fresh coat of white paint and our name provisions hand painted black lettering across the top. It's a custom design font for our name, and the hand lettering painting will be done on commission by a local artist who's skilled and proficient in hand lettering. So we get many compliments from our neighbors, from the neighborhood, from our customers. Many compliments on the interior of our store, which Catherine spent 7 months updating from the old shoe store that it was to the gem that it is now. So being able to update the exterior would naturally align with the beautiful updates that she did on the interior. So we just think this update would fit in nicely with the clean aesthetic already on Mission Street, and be able to show off to our clientele that we're here, we're open, and we're serious about being here and providing really great goods for. Thank you. Thank you for.
Thank you very much. Do any committee members have questions for the applicant? Vice Chair Chan.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question. I see a couple of photos with the sign superimposed on the building, and that it says sign drawn not to scale. Have anything that's to scale?
No, unfortunately, I don't.
Okay, so how suggest us kind of make a judgment if like the size and ratio?
That was generally the best rendering that we had an artist do. And I think at the time when our artist created that rendering, I didn't have some of the city's, permitted sizes and stuff. So that was just basically an example to go off what the look would be. But, we're obviously willing to put it within the city guidelines of how big we paint it.
Okay, all right, so nothing's available for us.
No.
As a
Not
correct
today.
form. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative? I have a question. Did you consider, did the business consider superimposing this design, the design of the sign on the existing awning?
The thought, crossed our minds. We really don't like the dark brown awning that it is now. I don't know, if we can just replace that fabric with our name on it. But Catherine personally really doesn't like the look of the awning, and she thinks a clean storefront would really align with kind of the interior aesthetic, very clean, minimal, very fresh looking. Personally, her and I, we don't really like the awning, I guess, Gary.
It has a little outdated, isn't it, but your whole storefront is like glass, so isn't it part of that whole thing about situation? Like I'm just
so
seeing some situation where
This,
the
so,
awning comes off and maybe like some,
right, yeah, we thought
Some
about the
shades,
sun, like the way the sun comes into the windows. We don't have product also like that's going to be directly in the front windows and I think with some of the shading of the trees there, it kind of helps diffuse some of the light coming into the store. And then if that being the case where it's getting very hot right now, maybe an interior shade just be added in our window just to block a little bit of the sunlight. So far, I'm not sure if the awning does that much to block a lot of the sun, but.
Committee Member Chang?
It's one quick question. When you remove the awning, have you checked the anchoring and you're gonna be able to patch what the anchors are and we're gonna refinish that wall to achieve what you really want to achieve?
I imagine Catherine's contractor who did the whole interior and everything that she would be contracting him for the removal of the awning and then any patching where like anchors were. And then probably the whole like white paint that they would handle that. The hefty portion. Yeah.
Because in order to do it right, I guess we need to take care of all those issues and.
Sure.
And I do, because when I was out there, I think the two awnings are separated. with
Yeah.
the neighbor, so
Mhm.
you don't take theirs down also.
Right, yeah.
So,
We made sure we were.
right, so yeah, that's fine, that's a little bit sure that is understood. That all details in order to achieve what you really want to achieve is
Right.
doable.
Any other questions for the applicant's representative? Committee Member Latham? Is there any lighting on your side?
No lighting on the outside that would point towards the sign. There's just one light in our walkway to the store. But I don't imagine we would be putting any lighting. I think the white on the black would be prominent, or sorry, the black words on white would be prominent enough and with just like the street lighting.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
no
we're not
other
looking
lights.
at that, okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Comments? Is there anyone here who would like to speak from the public on this agenda item, on this project? Seeing none, are there any comments, public comments that have been made online or anybody who's joining us online who would like to speak on this project?
No.
Thank you. So
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. A little alternate committee member, Suzanne Torreson is now an official member of tonight's meeting. She would like to participate as a member of the public. You can go ahead and speak if you like.
Yes, hello, committee members.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Your audio is coming out from my computer.
Can you hear me?
I'm gonna try something. Go ahead and continue speaking.
Can you hear me? No.
This time. No, it's from this computer.
Oh. I'll just put my comment in the chat.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if you put your comment in the chat, I'll read it out loud. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't have any members of other owners to speak.
thank you. So we'll wait for that comment then.
So far, She is saying that she appreciates the updated, streamlined, clean lines of the sign. And if you can just clarify if that's the end of your statement. No, we can wait.
Are you waiting for me?
Yeah, if that's your last statement, then.
Oh, yes, sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you for participating.
Okay.
So that answers your question.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll close the public comments, bring the item back to the committee for discussion. Committee member Babbage.
Yes, this, I can accept this as presented this evening. I also wanted to just point out that the dimensions of the storefront were given to us, and even though this may not be exactly to scale, if anything, it is represented larger than it actually will be, at least by my measurement with my unofficial measurements. But it looks like, if anything, it will be smaller than this, and I see this as also as our alternate committee member mentioned, a nice clean design, and I think it's kind of brings something, a cool look to Mission. So I can approve it this evening.
Thank you. Vice Chair Chow.
Thank you, Chair. I think I can support it, kind of going along with it. Exactly. Feelings that I do like the awnings. I think that's that kind of brings the whole block, makes the whole block charming. It's kind of when we're talking about compatibility, it adds to the compatibility as to the charm of our mission. In the meantime, want to support new businesses, and you can see the clean look. So I think I can go along with it in the majority.
Thank you. Committee member Chang.
That is a wonderful idea. Actually, this is such a unique storefront that the interior and the awning doesn't go together. By taking the sign out, it's all together. So it's going to be a beautiful addition to us. I guess.
Thank you. Committee member Lakeman. That was a good point. I can support it also. I'm really happy to see the sign coming into the city. It's not plastic letters. So happy that I think this is really artistic and elegant, and I think it's really a nice design. Thank you. I do miss the awnings. I agree with the point there, but I do think this one is really nice. So I'm happy to see it. Thank you. I think the design is beautiful. I think it is creative and also artistic. Compatibility with outside missions, and consistent, and all of a sudden we're going to have this jarring property business with no awning. And I'm not understanding that. And I think there's a little bit further discussion. It's interesting because if the business was on the other side of Mission, it might be compatible with the legal neighborhood, but I'm not really sure how we're finding it compatible with the legal neighborhood to let the awning go. And then are we going to have awning, no awning, awning, no awning? What's the precedent we're setting here? That block of Mission has had those awnings for as long as I can remember. So I'd like to hear from my fellow committee members as to how we're finding compatibility with it.
If I may just add a little bit of my vision. Commercial property is a little different than residential property within the same street or neighborhood. Each business has their own character. I actually walked this property and I saw how they do the storefront design area. You see this on the west side all the time. It's each store is very, very unique, and it's okay. If the business would have been a different type of business that may work with the awning, that may be fine, would be perfectly fine. Each store, you want to make that a little bit more interesting, is to invite this potential customer come in and enjoy each store and the signage, the storefront, the interior. It's almost like walking down Rodeo Drive and see how each store is completely different design. As far as color, style, signage, and all of that. So I think seeing that happen in San Marino will be a step forward. That's my view.
I appreciate that comment, but it's not like we have other businesses on that block that are doing their own thing. They're all conforming with this, with the. You don't see this as an outlier. I'd like to hear this. There had been an awning on the side of that corner with that real estate office. Yeah. We approved that, right? And they took the sign, the awning down, and I thought it would look nicer back, but it's gone. And it's gone, and it has a red sign that isn't very compatible with anything. So I think this is a beautiful sign, and it goes with the storefront, and I think this is an improvement to this. And I know awnings are nice, but I also think that this option is nicer than the awning. And the awning is kind of, I like the design. I think it's a little upscale and it stands out, and it draws you into the store, because right now the awning, I've heard about the store, but I can't tell what it is by looking at it. Even putting a little provisions on, I don't know if it would still draw. It doesn't look like a place to eat in. It looks like a hair salon or a nail salon. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just, this is an artistic sign. It's a beautiful sign. And if we approve it, what's going to happen next in that block? We'll get two beautiful signs. Because I don't think, is it Elmina? Elmina, okay. I think that the sign on the purpose is a cautionary tale.
Yeah, I just want to kind of circle back. Like I said earlier, I definitely have some experience about this, and I'm definitely still struggling on this. And again, looking back to the sign on Las Lopez, and I really would like to have the on. So yeah, that's.
Yes. Regarding awnings, one thing is we can't require businesses to keep their awnings. So if they decide they want to remove it one day, they can. We also can't require businesses to put on awnings, because that would be their own request to do so. Unless the city has a master design program for Mission Street that requires it, or a master design program for Huntington Drive that requires it, then that might be an avenue. But currently, the code for the city cannot require businesses to have awnings, nor can we deny them from removing them. So it's just a case by case basis. It depends on the business owners moving into various units. But without other types of protections, they have the ability to do so.
And what is within our student category?
You mean in general
In
regarding
a sessions, this application.
We can provide a definition.
Compatibility with the neighborhood, and in addition, the colors and materials are consistent and match the existing buildings.
The color of the sign itself, I'm assuming it is a corporate color. We need to get clarification from the applicant, but if it's the corporate color, then there's no purview there in terms of that regards.
Committee member Chang.
Yeah, I think that the word compatibility is kind of said it right there. The interior, the storefront, and the signage, and the white background with this proposed signage, in my view, is very compatible. As a matter of fact, look at the rendering, that awning is unfortunately it's incompatible with the storefront and the interior. If they would have done a different interior, maybe it's even more compatible with the awning. So if you compare the two pictures, the proposed picture, it's a lot more together than what's out there. That's just the way I see it.
I understand what you're saying, but if you're driving down Mission, you can't see into the business. You can't. And so it seems odd to distinguish what this business is doing and what, it seems odd to me. Because we're very different businesses. There's a nail salon, there's a hair place, there are stores right there on the block. So, okay. All right.
Doesn't seem like we really have a consensus here exactly. I mean, regarding the compatibility issue, I don't know how we resolve that other than just someone
Makes a motion.
force a motion and
And
sees what goes,
Right.
unfortunately.
Correct. I think we've discussed it. Given
It's
a
tricky,
strategic
this issue of
discussion.
compatibility with the neighborhood on a commercial block is, it was a conversation worth having and gave me some food for thought, so thank you.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
Okay. Let me go ahead and give it a try and see if I get enough support. I would move to approve for the sign review case number DR 23-18 at 2571 Mission Street with a new painted wall sign presented.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Roll call.
Committee member Chang,
Yes.
committee member Leibon,
Yes.
vice chair Zhao.
Yes, only because that, we don't have any say about on.
And Chair Leibon. I mean, I'm sorry, Chair McKay.
No.
Okay, so that's a 4-1 vote for approval.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is item number 7. Design review case number 23-5 at 2574 Marley Road. And this from Seth.
As G presenting case number ER 23-35 at 257 from Monterey Road for the structural improvements. The project does not propose to eliminate trees and properties that have a statewide historic use facility report as a potential district receiver to Mission Street District of Spanish colonial revival building 6 for alterations to the limit as to the sauce. There were 9 no objections and 6 no responses. The project was categorically exempt from super. The project installed concrete and standard. Thank you. Staff report is staff is involved with answering any questions and representatives on relevant.
Thank you, Assistant Planner G. Are there any questions for staff?
from the committee members?
Seeing none, is the applicant or applicant's representative here to present the project? Please come to the microphone. Name, address. Speak as closely to the microphone as possible.
My name is Peter. I'm the designer of this project, and I have here with me tonight Johnny and Sue, who are the owners of 2574 Monterey Road. So our project scope of work is a 264 square foot master bedroom addition or extension, so to speak. We are not increasing the number of bedrooms. We are making a bedroom suite out of an existing bedroom. The property is considered or listed as a potential contributor to the Mission Street Residential Historic District due to its building time period, I guess, significance to San Marino City. And so I heard a lot of concerns from the committee regarding windows, so to speak. So we're going to just jump right onto that. So the existing windows on our house, it's a mix of two different types of windows. There's an older style of kind of a sturdier metal window that are majority either fixed or double casement, fixed double casement in the middle. Those are painted kind of a seafoam green. And then the other windows are windows that have been placed or retrofitted sometime after the building was constructed, and those are white aluminum. And those are typically on the side. So the front are metal clad seafoam green kind of older style windows, and the side windows are white aluminum windows. So those are pre-existing before my owners, my clients enter the home. In fact, we don't know when those windows were put in, but if you take a look at the historic resource survey that was done in 2020, February 2020, it does include the fact that there had been significant changes to the property, including some that windows. So we think that was probably done before 2020. So when we started the project, we definitely were in agreement with the addition as compatible as much as possible to the existing architectural style of the home and be very consistent with the size and scale of the neighborhood, and keeping in mind privacy issues and things like that. So the windows that we are using are going to be gel blend sightline windows. It's going to be a metal clad. The exterior is going to be metal. It is going to have mullions like this bottom one right here. It's a 5/8" putty. This putty is the style, and that is going to match the seafoam green colored windows, older style windows that we already have pre-existing on the home. But the interior is going to be wood, right? So we're going to use those metal clad windows to match the existing windows on the property. Those are the mullions. The side trim is going to be about 2 inches, which is also going to be compatible. And we're using all of the same materials, colors to match the property. Exterior finish is stucco finish, kind of like a smoother trowel finish. And it's going to come very close to the window. So the window is not going to have an exterior trim. It's just going to come and overlap into the window like all of the existing windows right now. The bottom is going to have another wood sill that's also going to be kind of a similar seafoam green color, although a little bit bluish. But we're basically like all of the dimensions are a little bit different, but we're just going to match the same exact dimensions and style that's similar and prevailing throughout the entire house. And we also brought some other additional materials. The roofing material we're using is a 2-piece barrel US tile, and it's going to match exactly the same as the existing roof design. None of the existing roof tiles are going to be replaced. It's going to be pre-existing, staying the same. This is just going on the new addition part to match the existing. We also have, so on the windows, 2 windows are being removed. One is a single hung aluminum style window that's in the current bedroom. That's being converted into a bathroom, so we're moving one of those windows. And then the other window that's going to be moved is the one in the back facing the rear. That is a fixed slash double casement style window. So in that area, we're replacing it with a sliding patio door that's also going to have the same gel room. It's the same style from gel room. It's going to have the same components as well to match. And out those patio doors, there's a landing or step area where we're going to use these cherry style tiles on top to kind of match that Spanish Revival style. And then we're also facing the front of the steps with Spanish tiles, right? So more decorative that way. And also in the back, we're using the same awning. Actually, there's an existing canvas red awning that we're using to put into the new addition area. We're also including some additional lights that are included inside the plans. So we're basically doing everything that we can to match the existing style. So we are compatible with the neighborhood in that I looked at the pre-existing conditions in the neighborhood and analyzed the averages of the lot coverage, and we're compatible with that. The proposed structure is designed to be developed in a manner with balance to reasonable expectations of privacy. The addition part of it is not it's not directly adjacent to any adjacent neighbors that are livable space. The property to the west, the addition area is not adjacent to the livable space, it's more adjacent to their garage. Property on the right is, and also additionally, the property on the west is a two-story building. Property on the east is a one-story building. There is no livable space in the area where we're building. Property to the south is, I believe, a one-story building, but there's no impact because there's going to be enough foliage in the back that's going to block any sort of privacy concerns there. The proposed project is compatible with the existing building, which includes the roof lines. We're using the same pitch for the existing roof, continuation off that. Then, so the addition, bridge line of the addition is going to be lower than the roof line. So it's not going to change the maximum, it's not going to change the total height of the building at all. It's going to stay consistent in scale. The colors and materials that we match for structure as first.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Presentable. Questions? Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, are there any public comments that have been received online?
Anyone online wishing to provide any public comment? And if so, please type in. No.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll close the public comment section, bring the item back to the committee for discussion, and we'll start with committee member Lakon.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's a very minimal addition. It's only in the back. I think it's compatible with the existing structure, compatible with the neighborhood, so I could support it this evening. Committee member Chen.
I concur with all comments made and I can support it.
Vice Chair Chow.
Well, I have some concern about the compatibility of the property itself. I think it just seems like the lot is so tiny, and if we take even more of the backyard space, I'm again a little bit concerned about it.
Committee member Batten.
I share that concern. This was very much
well, not very much. This had some similarities of concerns to the Lorraine house that we discussed earlier. In fact, it's very similar. There's a 10-foot, from what I understand from staff, or from the drawing, there's 10 feet between, again, the end of one structure and the beginning of another. Also, further limited by an AC condenser. So, which I think that's, it's exactly the same thing. Almost exactly. This does have a little bit more space or perceived space because of this like inset or this I don't know what you call this. The addition has a little piece cut out, if you will, from the square that makes it not a square. Here. But I still am concerned about that space as by the way, I couldn't actually get in to see this backyard. I did peer over as much as I could behind the gate to sort of get an idea. And it did look very, very tight there. And I thought to myself, how is the addition going to help this property, or how is this going to be how is this, you know, not going to, how is this going to be compatible with the existing structure? It's hard to say without seeing it. I also didn't find the plans to be very, although I understood the plans and I understood the presentation, I can't visualize, I don't know what the steps are out there. I can't visualize how this looks with the plans that we were given. It's well, it's not that I can't, it's very difficult to and not having seen the back of the existing home.
Thank you. I concur with the concerns of Vice Chair and Committee Member Patton. I think that there are some limitations to this application project on the way. I'm not going to go back into it. I concur with both of you. I also think that the plans are not as detailed and clear, clarity from these plans that I would like to see. So, so I'd like to agree to the dialogue as to what the motion would be like, given the three of us have concerns.
I mean, I personally would love to see this continued, and I also like the chance and just to maybe for the applicant to be able to soften the impact of like, again, this like we're going back into deep into the yard, very close to the garage. It just seems like it's a little too aggressive, and I'd love it for the applicant to revisit that a little bit. And in addition, maybe using a condenser would help that a little bit. Also, not only. And I would love to see it continuous. I think this can be I can see this project getting clawed back a little bit into a way that is a little more compatible with itself.
I can support that and concur with that. Vice Chair, could you support that and concur with that? You're wanting the addition, the 264 square feet, right? You want it, the one that's, you want it to come back or to come closer to the side? Do you want them to narrow it so that it's the line that's parallel to the driveway? You're saying to bring that closer to the west?
I think that I can see
Or
many
extend to
different
the back.
ways where this could be clawed back a little bit and just made it a little less aggressive. And I think that there's several ways that that could be done. It could be that wall that you said is parallel to the driveway could be pushed side the lot a little bit more. I think the AC can also be might help a little bit. And also the back of the the rear of the addition could be pushed back a little bit as well. Any of those things. Especially a couple of them in conjunction. I think would help this project a lot and give this, make it more compatible with the neighborhood and more compatible with it, so. Yeah, that's my thought.
I concur. Do we have a motion?
I move to continue design review case number 23-35 at 2574 Monterey Road with, until a date uncertain. I second that.
Roll call, please.
Sure, and one point that was asked for the applicant to clarify the plans, what specifically, that way we can help them address it.
I'd like to see renderings.
Renderings are pretty typical for second story additions. We can ask the applicant, but as this is a small single story addition, it's not something we typically ask.
I think that was appreciated that specification type and materials, but having a hard time.
Well, if you can just ask the applicant to provide it, because this will continue the space. I think that's not a big ask. It seems like a very help.
Unless we're not allowed to, director, if we're, are we not allowed to request something? To push, I mean, if the committee is seeking information to be able to make the compatibility finding.
The committee can request it, as Associate Planner Martinez just mentioned, that's not typical of a really small addition as the one before it. We would recommend that the applicant provide one. It might be the case that they might not be able to provide one at the meeting, but we'll get there.
If I can make a suggestion, just if not a rendering of the rear, in other words, the south elevation, at least a little more, like as an example, in A 3.0, it shows the proposed south elevation, and but you can see like number 6. I think that's supposed to be some steps, and it's there's no measurements. I don't understand where the steps are coming from. I understood that there is like a platform and some steps going down from the presentation, and I think elsewhere I got that idea. But the way the steps are shown, it's very difficult to see under existing and proposed north elevation 3.0. I'm just giving that as an example of something that would help us to visualize. Maybe just
Okay, thank you for providing some clarification. With that being said, I can take roll call. Committee member Becky. Yes.
So yes, I second that.
No, I just had well, I had one comment. If they were going to have the work continuing, they would show us where the trash can will be stored due to the tightness of the back, and like they have the air conditioning unit there, but the trash area. So that it's not sitting next to the master. You want to make sure that that's incorporated so that it's not sitting next to the master bedroom window. That would be good. The intention.
So with the first and second, committee member Banish,
yes.
committee member Chang, committee member Lincoln,
Yes.
vice chair Chow,
Yes.
and Chair McKay.
Yes.
Okay, I will vote for continuance to a date uncertain.
Thank you very much. That's the final agenda item for the evening. Do we have a vote? That's from the last meeting. Reporters. Let's find the dates. All right. Okay, I'm going to make a motion to, or Director. I think it's appropriate for us to continue the item on the consent calendar to the next meeting, if that is acceptable.
It is.
Do we need to make a motion? Okay, then I would make a motion to continue the approval of the minutes. From I believe, 2023, regular meeting of CRC. That is the only item on the consent calendar, and to continue that to August 2. Agenda for August 2.
Correct.
2023. Is there a second?
Committee Member Beach,
Yes.
Committee Member Chang, Committee Member Lee,
Yes.
Vice Chair Chow,
Yes.
and Chair McKay.
Yes.
Okay, five will vote for continuance to the next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Short one. An update on the deal of 1424 Bradbury Drive to the planning commission. The planning commission approved it, and approved the, was held back. There were some project that were recommended by the committee that they did apply to the project. And there were some other minor changes based on planning commission's direction, and it was currently, well, first of all, thank you for tonight. I think it was really, leadership, sure, it was great. I think we went through a lot. What I thought was going to be a longer period of time, so thank you for that. Currently, we have 4 projects in the docket. Our goal is not to have a document like we had one tonight, but sometimes get some around. Everything was ready. It wasn't because of the cancellation of the July 5th meeting. It just so happened that the applicants had all of the materials ready. So we'll try to manage the agenda so that we don't have it in a full agenda like we did today. I know that pre-COVID, there were times when the agendas were in the teens. I don't think our plan is to do that ever. So we always try to make it a manageable document. Also, we have a new city manager that started on July 1st. Don't be surprised if he comes to say hello on the next meeting or next 2 meetings. So hopefully you get to meet him then. You haven't already. And that concludes the director's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any written communications or public items for distribution?
I'm sorry, no, there has not been any additional documents.
If there is no further business to discuss, the meeting is adjourned at 9:50 p.m. And the next summary and design review committee meeting will be held on August 2, 2023 at 6 p.m.
Yes. Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.